One day, the world changed completely. Without warning, towers and dungeons erupted across the planet, and monsters flooded out, tearing human civilization apart overnight. Entire regions collapsed, but nowhere suffered more than South Korea. There, the towers never stopped spawning, and the monsters were stronger than anywhere else on Earth. But in that chaos, something else appeared. Heroes, there the people awakened with supernatural power began pushing back. They reclaimed cities, suppressed dungeons, and turned humanity's collapse into a counterattack. What started as survival quickly became opportunity. Companies rebuilt, systems formed. And eventually Korea rose from ruin into a global superpower, a nation of heroes, a place where the strongest gathered. At the center of it all stood one institution, which is the most advanced hero academy in the world. Called Cube Academy, where the best of the best fought just to enter. And in this world, everything revolves around two people, the main character destined to save it, and his rival who is destined to stand against him. But here's the twist, this world wasn't created by a god, it was written by our boy. And now he somehow finds himself inside it. As rankings are announced, the top cadet is revealed to be Kim Suho, the real protagonist of this story. The moment our MC sees Kim Suho's face, he realizes the truth. This is his story, the exact one he wrote. Kim Suho, the perfect hero, kind, righteous, powerful, and hiding a secret no one knows. Then comes second place Shin Jong-hak, a genius heir with talent, equal to Suho but later in the story. His envy twists him into a villain, turning their future into a clash of light and shadow. And now everything is unfolding exactly as written, which raises one terrifying question. If this is his novel, then who is he? Someone suddenly taps his shoulder. Stop spacing out Chundong. Chundong, that name hits him like a shock. Who the heck is that? He doesn't remember writing anyone like that. Panicking, he tries to look at his own face and sees nothing, just a question mark. That's when it hits him. He didn't become the hero, he didn't become the rival. He became something far worse. A character he never even created, basically an NPC at this point. No face, no role, no presence. Probably broke as fuck too, just like me. Anyways, he is now just another student no one notices. A background extra and a speck of dust in a world he once wrote. Now we rewind to a day when he received an email and wondered what it could be about. And it turned out to be a remake offer for his novel. The Returned Hero. He had placed the novel on hold for the past half year after falling into a slump. That made the sender's request seem strange. Why ask for a remake of a story that had been paused? He stared silently at the email before deciding to reply, partly out of guilt for abandoning the series and partly because he assumed it was just a request from an odd fan. However, that reply became the cause of everything. Back in the present, he washes his face, finally starting to get used to the situation after 2 full weeks. For those 2 weeks, he has been living with a face marked only by a question mark, and he now accepts that this is not a dream. This world is the one he wrote, and Kim Chundong, the body he now inhabits, is merely one of its countless extras. He tried every method he could think of to discover who placed him in this world and for what reason, but he found no answers. If the story continues up to the point where he stopped writing, then he may be trapped here for nearly 10 years. The thought frightens him, the fact that he might have to spend a decade stuck inside a suspended novel, surrounded by teenagers while his real life continues outside. It is definitely not something he wants. He forces himself to calm down and think of a way to return home. For now, the only plan he can come up with is to follow the main storyline and endure at least until the middle of the story, the point where he stopped writing. Until then, he resolves to survive in this world. And to do that, he must attend Cube. Cube is a man-made island located near the East Sea, home to future hero cadets. Around 50,000 people reside there. It functions as a modern city, concentrated with the world's finest magic, industrial skill, and talent. Its existence is the very reason Korea is regarded as a superpower. It is both the heart of the nation and the main stage of the novel he wrote. And now we see him arriving at a massive building, the Hero Training Center. Among all the students training to become heroes with their special abilities known as gifts, only the absolute elite are qualified to become Cube cadets, and the body he now possesses is one of those cadets. He has no idea what kind of gift this body has, but since it managed to enroll in Cube, he assumes it must be something decent. Whatever it is, he just hopes it's useful enough to help him survive this terrifying school. He steps into his classroom, Class Veritas, the very center of the Cube arc. The good and the evil, the supporter and the rival, and of course the main protagonist himself, they are all gathered here. Soon these characters will begin forming cliques, alliances that will trigger countless events in the story. And knowing he may have to spend 10 years among them, things are already looking bleak for him. Fast forward to the evening. He walks toward his dormitory, barely aware of how the day even passed. While reminiscing about his high school days, he suddenly stops mid-thought. After noticing something, a delivery. It has his name on it and he begins unboxing it, wondering if it contains Kim Chundong's personal belongings. But the moment he sees what's inside, he freezes. It's his laptop from his original world. Shocked, he questions how it could possibly be here. The laptop powers on by itself. It begins initializing synchronization, and a bright light flashes from the screen. It is synchronizing Kim Chundong's character with Kim Hajin. Even start to download all the settings as well. As he watches, he realizes these are the exact settings he once wrote himself. He tries to reach out, demanding to know who is behind this, but before he can react further, an overlapping layer begins forming over his character. The question mark covering his face starts to crack. The synchronization reaches 99%. Then the laptop displays a new message. He has acquired a unique authority setting intervention. The glass-like layer hiding his face fractures further, then completely shatters, finally revealing his true face. As synchronization completes, all of his stats are reset. He stares at the laptop screen, seeing his real appearance reflected back at him. Notifications continue appearing around him. He wonders if this is enlightenment. In this world, enlightenment occurs when someone surpasses their limits. When it happens, all of their skills, gifts, and abilities become digitized and visible, allowing them to grow stronger more efficiently. In simple terms, it's a status window. He begins examining everything, one by one. First, synchronization and reset. It stands out to him the most. Though he doesn't fully understand its meaning, it is clearly the reason he regained his face from the question mark. Compared to Chundong's original abilities, he is now significantly weaker, but instead he has gained points. Next, setting intervention catches his attention. Hajin is certain he never wrote an ability like this, and the phrase gaining more importance confuses him. After thinking it through, he realizes it likely means he must become more significant within the story. Perhaps the reason he was given this laptop and this strange authority is because he is meant to interfere with the main storyline of this world. Just as he tries to brush it off, another notification appears, this time referencing undisclosed information. He becomes irritated. If there is even the slightest chance that this is a clue to returning to his original world, then he has no choice but to follow the instructions and intervene as required. He calms himself and sits down, even if he chooses to do nothing and simply waits for the novel to conclude. There is no guarantee he would return home, and even if this undisclosed information turns out to be meaningless, he might still uncover a clue somewhere along the way by involving himself with the main characters. But to survive that involvement, he needs to become stronger. In his novel, there is no traditional leveling system. Stats cannot be freely increased. The only resource available is points, a highly valuable commodity. To use them efficiently, he decides to invest in luck. Luck is not limited to dungeon rewards, financial gains, bonus stats, or interpersonal relationships. It is a scam-like stat that subtly affects everyday life. However, invariable stats like luck normally cannot be raised with points. Still, he considers the possibility of converting his points into SP. He decides to test it, and invests SP into luck. Immediately, a notification appears. A mysterious luck effect has been activated. The effect applies to the luck stat itself, increasing it and changing luck to 9.1. Considering that the protagonist Kim Suho's magic power is around 9.0, Hajin feels like he has just pulled off something incredible. Encouraged, he invests the remaining SP into perseverance, knowing he will need it to endure the challenges ahead. Thanks to his elevated luck, perseverance also receives a bonus increase, rising from 6.6 to 7.2. But suddenly, a warning appears. From now on, invariable stats can no longer be modified with SP. Hajin clicks his tongue in annoyance, calling the system petty. Still, he had expected that such tricks would have limits. At the very least, he is grateful he managed to enhance both luck and perseverance before the restriction took effect. Then he remembers something. He still has another 10,000 SP granted as novice consideration. He begins contemplating where to invest it, but ultimately decides to hold off for now and think it through more carefully before making a move. The next morning, back in the classroom, the professor begins by commending everyone for their performance during the morning training. He introduces himself properly and states that he will be in charge of them for the next year. Hajin quietly notes his credentials, ranking points 3,850, world ranking 9,737, and upper intermediate grade 5, according to the association's classification. The professor doesn't waste time. He bluntly warns them that Cube is not as glamorous as they might think. Here, the absolute indicator of worth is grades. Without results, they will fall behind. Statistically, less than half of Cube cadets graduate without being expelled. Since this institution trains heroes, they are evaluated under strict and precise criteria. With that said, he orders everyone to follow him, their first schedule deciding their main weapon. He places his hand on a lock, and a gate opens. They arrive at what appears to be a massive armory, filled with countless types of weapons. The students freeze in awe at the sight, but the professor quickly snaps at them to hurry up and choose. Once they select their main weapon, they won't be allowed to change it for 6 months. The decision must be made carefully. One by one, students begin choosing. Some choose bows, some choose rapiers, and various other weapons. Hajin observes that the main characters make their selections without hesitation. Then he realizes it's his turn. With his current stats, he isn't strong enough to properly wield the types of weapons most cadets prefer. If he raises his stats now just to use them, it would ruin the efficiency of his earlier investments. So his options are limited. The weapon he chooses must meet certain conditions. Ideally, it should be something he has already used in his original world, something he can adapt to quickly. When he finally makes his choice, another student notices. Whispers spread instantly. People start asking if he's serious. Even the professor looks surprised and asks him to confirm his decision. But our boy decided to go full American mode, with a gun in hand and a strong desire to spread democracy and freedom in this novel. Because of that, all eyes turn toward Hajin. The professor reminds him that he used a sword at the military academy. Hajin calmly replies that he decided to switch. The professor nods. At Cube, a cadet makes his own choices. Whether the decision is wise or foolish, the responsibility lies entirely with the cadet. Despite the murmurs and mockery around him, Hajin remains unfazed. The weapon he chose is a gun. He knows that even in this world, firearms are viable, at least for those who cannot properly use magic. The bullets commonly used here are magic bullets, infused with mana and far more powerful than ordinary metal rounds. Yet guns are often neglected. The first reason is simple. No matter how strong the wielder becomes, the damage output of a firearm has a fixed limit. The second reason is their shallow origin. This world revolves around legends and mythology. Artifacts from ancient myths actually exist, and the deeper a weapon's origin, the higher its grade. That's why cadets favor prehistoric and legendary weapons over modern firearms. They prefer relying on their own skills and borrowing power from storied armaments to surpass their limits. For Hajin, none of that matters. He does not see himself as a protagonist. He has never wielded a sword, and he knows he cannot compete with cadets who have trained their entire lives. Choosing a gun may not be such a bad decision. He can use it immediately, and simply by standing out he can earn SP. With his weapon decided, the next step is his gift. A gift is essentially a superpower. Most people receive only one, though there are rare exceptions, those whose gifts have yet to manifest. And someone like Kim Suho, who has already manifested the Sword Saint gift. Elsewhere, Suho notices Ki Ne-eun and asks if she is there to train. She replies sharply, asking what other reason she would have to be there. Suho explains that not many people stay after class, which is why he asked. Seeing her, he also recalls that there is another sharpshooter in their class. At the mention of that, Ne-eun realizes he means Hajin. And for some reason, she looks irritated. Suho asks why she is making such a face. She scoffs, saying she cannot call him a sharpshooter when he can barely shoot a kilometer. She assumes he has already given up on becoming a hero and is just stalling. If he drops out midway, it won't affect his records, so that must be his plan. Suho gently tells her not to judge so rashly. Ne-eun frowns at his calm smile and snaps at him to stop nagging. He apologizes, and she tells him to leave if he isn't there to train. Outside, Hajin happens to overhear part of their conversation, wondering if someone was talking about him. Later, back in front of his laptop, he reflects on something important. Kim Suho became the greatest hero with just one gift. That alone proves how crucial gifts are. And writing a first gift grants 10,000 SP, which is something he absolutely cannot ignore. He begins by drafting a simple gift, which consumes the entire 10,000 SP. To his surprise, the gift edits itself automatically. It applies to all ranged weapons, not just firearms, but bows as well. It is also a growth-type gift. While weak at first, it has the potential to improve over time, making it far more powerful in the long run. After considering it carefully, he decides to keep it. With that, he feels somewhat prepared. From this point onward, he will have to survive in this world using this gift, at least until the main story reaches its end. Now, the next day in class, the teacher is explaining the theory behind towers and dungeons. While the lecture continues, Hajin can't help but think about how the few careless lines he once scribbled have now made their way into an official textbook. If anyone knew how casually those lines were written, they would probably shed tears of blood. As for him, he breezes through the lecture thanks to his observation and reading gift. Just as the name suggests, he can observe everyone within his field of vision and read settings and chronological timelines directly through his laptop without any intermediary. Ne-eun sits quietly throughout the class, and eventually the teacher concludes the lecture. The moment she leaves, Ne-eun bursts into a tantrum, complaining about how they never get to show any practical skills and are forced to study theory all the time. Suddenly, a student walks in and tells the entire class to report to the plaza in 20 minutes. Hearing that it's for practical training, Ne-eun instantly brightens up. Unlike some of the other students, especially our American boy, once gathered, everyone already has an idea of what kind of session this will be. The professor begins by announcing the teams. Each team will consist of 4 members, 2 warriors, 1 sharpshooter, and 1 supporter. Unless there are special circumstances, these teams will remain the same until the mid-semester exam. The teams have been deliberately mixed with high and low-ranking cadets to avoid imbalance. With that, he tells them to find their teammates. When Hajin sees his team, he freezes in shock. There's no way he's teamed up with that person. He is on the same team as Yu Yonha. Everything is unfolding exactly as written in the novel. Numerous lead roles exist to interact and clash with the protagonist, pushing the story forward. Among them, Yu Yonha is undoubtedly special. She is the top candidate to inherit Korea's leading guild, Essence of the Strait, and the successor of the prestigious Yu family. In the first half of the novel, she clashes with Kim Suho, but eventually she becomes influenced by him and turns into a powerful supporter. That makes connecting with Yu Yonha extremely important. The more involved he becomes in the story, the more SP he can gain. With that in mind, Hajin decides that during today's training, he needs to make sure he captures her attention. The rest of the team greets Yonha. Jin Hosung and Heizuki are also part of the group. Yonha, slightly annoyed, runs through possible dialogue choices in her head before deciding to greet them politely. However, she speaks an overly formal language, which feels strange since they are all the same age. She looks around for the last member, Hajin steps forward and introduces himself. Yonha asks him for a proper introduction, and Hajin knows she dislikes people who lack confidence. But before he can respond properly, the other members interrupt, bombarding him with questions about the weapon he chose. They inform him that he has already become famous among the first years for picking that kind of weapon. Before the chatter can continue, the professor suddenly appears behind them and asks if they have enough free time to stand around chatting. Startled, they straighten up. He informs them that the coordinates of the monsters each team will fight have been sent to their smartwatches, and orders them to move immediately. Soon, Hajin's team arrives at a beach location. Running toward the ocean, Yonha tells them to prepare, saying they are close to their target. They discuss the monster's information. Hajin trails behind them, already feeling exhausted. Even though his stamina stats are above average, he can barely keep up, which makes him question whether this is the standard level of a cube cadet. They finally stop. Yonha announces that they have arrived at the training zone of the 8th coast. The monster assigned to them is the Black Hump Octopus. The moment it appears, Yonha initiates a strategy meeting. The Black Hump Octopus is a low intermediate grade monster. Its main body does not possess overwhelming attack power, but the real danger lies in the humps on its head. When it senses danger, it releases baby octopuses from those humps to attack. It can launch dozens of blood-sucking baby octopuses at once, and each one is extremely dangerous, capable of turning a normal human into a mummy within seconds. Jin Hosung adds that once the battle begins, they should prioritize eliminating the swarm of baby octopuses first. Since dozens will need to be dealt with quickly, Heizuki suggests that Hajin handle them, as he is the sharpshooter. However, Yonha immediately refuses and says she will take care of them herself. She orders the warriors to conserve their magic power, as they will need to cut down the Black Hump Octopus in a single decisive strike due to its strong regeneration ability. Hajin is slightly surprised and wonders if she is deliberately excluding him from the fight. Yonha steps forward and asks if everyone is ready. Without waiting for Hajin's response, she commands the operation to begin, which irritates him. Soon, the octopus begin to destroy their boat completely. Jin Hosung stands on land, attempting to draw its attention. Their first objective is to lure it to shore. The octopus notices him, dives underwater, and rushes toward him. When it resurfaces, Jin Hosung sprints away, while Heizuki and Hajin prepare to attack. Then Yonha appears wielding her main weapon, a whip. The octopus lashes out with its humps, launching baby octopuses toward them. Jin Hosung breaks into a sweat, realizing they have already begun bursting out. Dozens of baby octopuses swarm toward him. As he tries to escape, Yonha suddenly intervenes and eliminates them in one sweep. Witnessing the strength of Yonha, ranked 7th in cube, Jin Hosung is left in awe. He thanks her and quickly retreats, leaving her to continue defending. Yonha cracks her whip again, but the octopus grows agitated. In counterattacks, she dodges and leaps into the air, only to be targeted midair by a baby octopus. Heizuki shouts a warning, but it's too late. The monster closes in on her. At that critical moment, a gunshot rings out. Hajin fires and takes down the monster, saving Yonha. She looks over in surprise, realizing that the one who just saved her is none other than Kim Hajin. While SB can be exchanged for stat points, it also increases as Hajin's importance rises. But as an extra, attracting attention from the very beginning is no easy task. That leaves him with only one viable option, intervening directly in the protagonist's stories. Just like he did moments ago by saving Yonha, an action that clearly shocked the rest of the team as well. Yonha turns toward him, ready to scold him for ignoring her order to stay back. But before she can finish, the octopus attacks again. Dozens of baby octopuses launch toward them, and even Yonha tenses at the sight. Hajin calmly analyzes the situation. There are only a few dozen. Their intelligence is low, and he can clearly trace their attack paths. This is the perfect moment for him to act. He activates his self-created gift, Bullet Time. For 3 seconds, time slows down. Within that window, he can clearly observe every movement. The countdown begins, ticking away rapidly as he fires, one shot after another. He eliminates the baby octopuses mid-flight, and when the 3 seconds end, Yonha, who had glanced back toward him, witnesses the result. Every single baby octopus has been destroyed. She is visibly stunned. With the hump now exposed, she immediately seizes the opportunity, wrapping it with her whip, and ordering everyone to attack. Heizuki and Jin Hosung leap forward and unleash magic liberation. With a powerful swing full of power and magic, they obliterate the creature in an instant. The combined strike lands cleanly and the octopus collapses. Meanwhile, Hajin positions himself to guard Yonha. Hajin asks if it's finally over. Yonha silently glares at him in response, while he drops to the ground, claiming to be completely exhausted. And with that, they finally able to completed their mission successfully. Soon their clear time is calculated. She got 16th place. Yonha stares at the ranking, clearly surprised. The entire battle was recorded by drone, and the footage will be sent to their smartwatches for individual analysis. Although everyone will be graded separately, Yonha finds herself dissatisfied with her own result. She is even more irritated to learn that Ki Naeun has a higher score than her. While glancing at Shin Jonghak, she recalls her determination to separate Naeun's family early on. But if this is the best she can achieve, how could she possibly win? She notices Shin staring at Naeun with a faint smile. Annoyed, she slams her desk and stands up, and heading toward Naeun. Yet when she reaches her mood shifts completely. She hugs Naeun from behind with exaggerated excitement and asks about her battle. Naeun replies that her team only placed 4th, then asks Yonha the same question. Yonha hesitates before admitting her team ranked 16th. Naeun looks surprised, pointing out that they had a gunman on their team, and remarks that it would have been fortunate if he hadn't slowed them down. She gestures toward Hajin. But Yonha's thoughts differ. It's true they wasted 50 minutes on a route that should have taken 10 because of him. However, during the actual battle, he more than pulled his weight. The dozens of baby octopuses were destroyed before they even touched the ground. She begins to question whether such a feat is possible with ordinary magic bullets. Curiosity starts to grow. Just who is Kim Hajin? Meanwhile, in the training room, Hajin checks his notifications to see how much his ranking has improved. Several of his stats have increased, especially due to luck. As he expected, his luck was clearly in effect during today's session, and his SB has risen considerably as well. Getting involved with Yu Yonha has proven worthwhile. His stats also rose through exercise, and he attributes the gains to both enlightenment and luck. Satisfied with the progress, he decides to head back, after finishing his training for the day. Later in Yu Yonha's dormitory room, she reviews the battle footage, focusing specifically on Hajin. Within 2.78 seconds, he fired 60 bullets. She wonders if it's even possible to pull a trigger 20 times in a single second, or if his weapon has some sort of continuous fire function. His reflexes are exceptional, yet his health stat is unusually low compared to other cadets, and the sudden weapon change raises further questions. There are too many irregularities. She doesn't even recall seeing him at the Agent Military Academy. Her thoughts are interrupted by a message from Shin Jonghak asking what she's doing. She blushes slightly as she reads it and replies that she's analyzing the video. Shin assumes she's obsessing over something trivial again. She texts him back, telling him that if he plans to inherit the guild, he should hurry up and start analyzing people as well. Shin responds by asking whether there are even capable members on her team, saying he thought they were all useless. But then, almost casually, he asks about Hajin. Yonha smiles to herself. Shin may act indifferent, but in the end, he was curious. She finds that side of him unexpectedly cute. She replies that Hajin seemed capable of pulling his own weight, suitable enough for someone ranked 934. Shin responds that perhaps he simply got lucky. Yonha pauses at that. Just lucky, she thinks, doubt lingering in her mind. Now at the creator's Sacred Grace Guild building, an employee informs the vice captain that the guild observation is scheduled for 2 weeks later on Friday. She barely reacts to the reminder and instead excitedly tells him to look at something. On the screen is Kim Suho. She's introduced as Yoon Seunga, vice captain of Creator's Sacred Grace, ranked 307. Watching Suho's movements, she praises him. His swordsmanship flows like water, unlike anything else that exists. It almost looks like he's dancing. His cutting force is extraordinary. So sharp it seems as though he's slicing not only monsters, but space itself. Essence of the Strait, Desolate Moon, Frost Sanctuary. She understands why all the top guilds in Seoul are desperate to recruit him. And with visible excitement, she declares that she wants to bring him into their guild no matter what it takes. Then the footage shifts to the next cadet, Kim Hajin. Her expression changes slightly when she sees the weapon he's using. The assistant mentions that there had been brief discussions about him in guild communities. Because he was on the same team as Yu Yonha, many people ended up watching the video. He used a non-automated weapon and fired 60 bullets in 3 seconds. 59 of them hit their target. Even if it were pure reflex, the weapon itself shouldn't have been able to withstand that rate of fire. Due to the unusual talent he displayed through such a weapon, people within the guild have started calling him unorthodox. They also note that he switched from a sword to this weapon as soon as he entered Cube. Yoon Seunga calls it enlightenment, a phenomenon where a person realizes their true talent. Before enlightenment, one cannot know what ability truly suits them. Because of this, there are rare cases where individuals change their main weapon. However, such a change usually sets their career back by at least 3 years. The Agent Military Academy encourages cadets to experiment with various weapons, so enlightenment at 17 is quite fast. Still, his talent appears limited to that specific weapon, which makes it less universally impressive. Even so, she decides he's worth monitoring and asks if there are any available scouts. Her assistant replies that there aren't any. The current leader is so extraordinary that everyone is already stretched to their limits. In the end, she decides to leave Hajin alone for now. If he truly is a pearl hidden in the mud, he will shine on his own. Soon enough, they'll find out whether the title unorthodox is too much for him or not. The focus then shifts to Wednesday. It's anti-personnel training day. Trainees pair up in groups of 2 and use training weapons to reduce injury and make evaluations easier. As a match unfolds, the instructor angrily shouts Hajin's name. Hajin complains that he's the only one being matched against an instructor. She explains that his training firearms haven't been completed yet. Using a real weapon during anti-personnel training could cause serious harm, so she will spar with him personally. Hajin protests, saying he can't do this and tries to surrender. The instructor clenches her fist and reminds him that there is no surrender in real combat, ordering him to raise his guard. She throws a punch Hajin barely dodges. She looks surprised. He appears nervous, but when she throws another punch, he leans back just enough to avoid it again. She observes that even though his posture is terrible, he is tracking her movements with his eyes. Clairvoyance. With this skill, he can see far into the distance and vaguely predict his opponent's movements. It only shows him the path. He still has to physically dodge on his own. Some students laugh, mocking him for jumping around awkwardly. Yet as he notices their ridicule, his SB increases. That makes him wonder if provoking attention like this might actually be efficient. After training ends, he grabs a can of soda. When he turns around, he notices Yu Yonha passing by. She looks at him silently, her expression filled with disgust. As she walks away, he thinks about how, even though he wrote her character, her personality still feels intense. Then an idea forms. He calls out to her and tosses her a can of cola. She asks if he's picking a fight. He replies that she carried him in their last battle, so he's offering it in hopes of getting along. In reality, it's a test. If indulging side characters earned him 40 SB, how much would interacting with a main cast member bring? Yonha tells him she doesn't need it and throws the can back at him. She warns him not to speak casually to her without permission, calling it his first warning, and leaves without another word. Hajin remains silent. As Yonha walks away, she suddenly notices her bag feels heavier than before. She opens it and finds the same can of cola inside. Annoyed, she mutters that Hajin is an idiot. She moves to throw it into a trash bin, but stops midway. Instead, she places it back into her bag, saying the cola has no sins. From above, Hajin watches. He recalls her character setting. She loves junk food like cola, ramen, and hamburgers. However, because of her public image, she can't openly buy those things herself. That detail is something no one else knows. Still, simply poking at hidden character settings for brief conversations won't earn him much SB. If he wants meaningful gains, he has to wedge himself directly into the main storyline. And he already knows what comes next. The next major event is the demonic human attack on the National Weapons Museum. Demonic humans are individuals who made contracts with devils, exchanging their souls for immense power. They act as the devil's hands, spreading chaos throughout the world. This particular incident revolves around the attempted assassination of a specific individual at the National Weapons Museum. And coincidentally, the main cast will be present at the museum that day, browsing the exhibits, placing them directly in the path of the impending attack. This episode is the one that draws the attention of several key figures toward Kim Suho. Both Kim Suho and Ki Naeun are present, and since it's still early in the story, the demonic human they face isn't supposed to be overwhelmingly dangerous. Because of that, Hajin concludes that this is the perfect opportunity to slip himself into the event. As he considers how to make his way to the museum, a teacher notices him lingering and asks why he hasn't returned to the dorms now that daily lessons are over. Hajin quickly puts away his laptop and leaves, but then his laptop begins acting strangely. An email notification appears. At Cube, clubs function as extracurricular organizations where cadets engage in independent activities, such as academic, martial arts, experiential learning, hobbies, and more. Here are over 100 unique clubs within the academy. Beyond self-development, clubs also serve as spaces for cadets to interact and build connections. The club Hajin plans to join is among them. Now we are introduced to the president of the travel club, Healing. Oh Hanyun thanks everyone for joining. He mentions that this year's new members include some impressive individuals, and when he reviewed their applications, he could hardly believe it. He reintroduces the club's purpose. Their objective is simple: travel. Once or twice a month, they use the portal to leave Cube and visit places outside. For today's orientation, they will be going somewhere nearby Seoul. A free, casual trip to Seoul in pairs, exactly as Hajin wrote in the novel. And today marks the beginning of the first main arc, the Seoul National Weapons Museum. Exactly as Hajin wrote in the novel, he intends to subtly intervene in the main storyline. The president instructs everyone to draw lots to determine pairs. Hajin briefly wonders whether that detail was exactly the same in the original novel, but regardless, he intends to move separately anyway. When Yu Yonha draws her lot, it reveals Kim Hajin. They exchange a look. That says everything. She immediately suggests they move separately. Hajin agrees. As they are about to part ways, she pauses and gives him a reminder not to speak casually to her again. It's his second and final warning. Soon they arrive at the National Weapons Museum, home to the largest exhibition hall of weapon replicas in Korea. As Hajin walks through the exhibits, he spots Naeun practically drooling over a bow. That reminds him that Kim Suho should be nearby as well. He finds Suho examining the 7-branch sword and casually asks if that's what he's looking at. Suho replies that it is. Hajin introduces himself and Suho admits that he remembers him as the cadet who chose an unusual weapon, though his name had slipped his mind. Hajin reflects briefly. Suho is strong, handsome, and driven by justice. Readers once criticized him for being too ideal, too unrealistic as a protagonist. Suho then suggests they check out a firearm exhibition together. Hajin declines, saying they probably won't have time. At that moment, the building trembles. A warning alarm blares through the museum, An announcement informs everyone that monsters have appeared outside. Panic spreads instantly. Civilians rush toward the exits in desperation. Suddenly, Naeun smashes the glass protecting the bow she had been admiring. The sound shocks everyone nearby. She tells the crowd to calm down, explaining that the museum's reserve hero will arrive soon. If they rush outside now, they'll only become prey. As she picks up the bow, alarm triggers, glass destruction and item theft detected. Metal barricades slam down, sealing the building and trapping everyone inside. Naeun tells Suho to hurry and grab a weapon. They need to hold out until the hero arrives. Then she senses someone approaching. A figure radiating a dark red aura steps forward. It is the demonic human follower of Lucius. He notices that people are already inside. Hajin immediately recognizes him. This demonic human is meant to serve as a stepping stone in the protagonist's growth, a villain who sets the stage for Kim Suho's development. The demonic human extends his claws and lunges at Naeun. Just before the attack lands, Suho charges from behind to intercept. Hajin watches, expecting the original sequence to unfold. Suho should be briefly pushed back before revealing his true strength and overwhelming the enemy. But that's not what happens. Instead, Suho is blasted into a wall. He crashes down violently. Hajin freezes in shock. This isn't how the story was written. Something is wrong in the original version. They struggle momentarily before Suho turns the tide and defeats the enemy. Naeun calls out to Suho, her voice trembling. He lies on the ground, coughing blood. Hajin asks if he's alright, but Suho can barely stand. The demonic human advances again. Naeun fires arrow after arrow, each one strikes. But the demonic human simply smiles. The arrows do damage, yet he continues forward without hesitation. It's not regeneration, it's sheer endurance. He's pushing through purely by will. He grins wickedly. Realizing the danger, Hajin shouts a warning as the demonic human lunges toward Naeun. Just as his claws near her face, Suho forces himself back into the fight and kicks the demonic human away. They exchange brief questions, "Are you okay?" But the assault resumes immediately. The demonic human lashes out with elongated energy whips. Suho's attack is blocked. He notices that the enemy's body has shifted in shape. Suho tries to restrain him, but the demonic human overpowers him and slams him into the ground. As Suho struggles beneath him, Naeun attacks from behind. The demonic human whirls around in fury and retaliates, striking her with an energy whip from his back. She can't dodge in time and is smashed into the wall. Everything is getting out of hand too quickly. Hajin sees it clearly. If this continues, someone will die. He shouts at them to get away. Even though he was the one who wrote this novel, Hajin is completely confused. The events unfolding in front of him are different from what he remembers. He quickly takes out his laptop, forcing himself to stay calm. At the same time, he pulls a bullet from his magazine, preparing to do whatever he can. He knows that with his current bullets, he wouldn't even be able to scratch the demonic human. Even increasing their raw destructive power wouldn't be enough to deal fatal damage. But as long as this world still follows the core settings of his novel, the major rules shouldn't have changed. With that in mind, he opens the settings for Mana Bullet. He alters its destructive power and changes its attribute, spending 104 SP before saving the modification. In this world, attributes and affinity can overcome differences in raw strength. That's why heroes are necessary. With the right attribute, someone weaker can overpower someone stronger. The demonic human possesses a dark attribute, and darkness is countered by light. Hajin raises his weapon and shouts at Kim Suho to move his ass away from the target. As he fires, the bullets transform into white light. Suho dodges out of the way just as the bullet strikes the demonic human's shoulder. A burst of brilliant light explodes. The demonic human's entire arm is blown off. He screams in agony, his grip on Naeun loosening. As she collapses to the ground, Suho's power flares up at the same time, while Hajin drops to one knee, knowing he has bought enough time. Suho becomes engulfed in radiant mana, his sword shining just as brightly. The demonic human trembles at the sight. The sword saint's power can cut through anything. Suho delivers a decisive strike, splitting the demonic human in half. The villain screams one final time before falling, bringing the battle to an end. Afterwards, Suho and Naeun stand there, both breathing heavily. Suho approaches her and asks if she's alright, but she slaps his hand away. He stares at her in silence. Hajin tells Suho to give her some space, thinking that in the original story her brother would soon arrive to comfort her. But instead of recognition, both of them look at him with shock and despair. Naeun asks what he just said, and then she starts vomiting. The scene shifts outside the museum. Monsters rampage through the streets, but suddenly beams of light descend from the sky, piercing and killing them instantly. It's Yoon Seunga. She has already taken care of the situation outside. A paramedic informs her that the exterior is secure. Relieved, she asks about the inside. He tells her that a demonic human appeared but was swiftly defeated, and that 3 cube cadets happened to be present. She praises them and asks for their names. Ki Naeun, Kim Suho, but before he can say the third name, she rushes off, excited at the chance to meet Kim Suho in person. On her way inside, she encounters Hajin. She greets him enthusiastically, calling it perfect timing. She begins to ask about Kim Suho, but Hajin informs her that Suho is inside before she even finishes the question. As she walks away, she pauses. How did he know she was looking for Kim Suho? Outside, Hajin hurriedly opens his laptop. Yoon Seungga's appearance unsettled him. He wonders whether this is connected to the changes in the story. He tries to organize his thoughts. A foreign variable, Kim Hajin, has entered the story, but his importance is still minimal. So far, the main events have progressed more or less as expected. By that logic, he shouldn't be influential enough to warp the narrative. Then he remembers something crucial. This novel has a co-author, and this world is a remake version of the story he originally wrote. If the current world is based on what the email sender added or altered, then it would explain why unexpected developments are occurring. In that case, the predictions he made using his own version of the novel might no longer be reliable. Just then, his laptop screen lights up. A message appears. One remedy: the protagonist and the characters around him never encounter real danger. If this continues, readers may grow tired of repetitive safety. Therefore, from now on, enemy levels will be increased, even if it leads to chaos. Hajin is left speechless. Later that evening, the instructor calls him over. He says he has heard a general summary of what happened and will ask for details later. For now, they are dismissed to the dorms. Suho asks about Naeun. The instructor replies that she has gone on sick leave and left with her family. With that, they are told to return. As the instructor walks away, Suho calls out to Hajin. He asks why Hajin said what he did to Naeun back at the museum. Hajin looks confused. Suho clarifies what he said about her brother. Hajin asks what about her brother. Suho frowns and asks if he's pretending not to know. Hajin insists that he truly doesn't know what he's talking about. The conversation ends there, with Suho clearly dissatisfied. Later, Hajin searches through his laptop for information about Naeun, her relationships and related data. Everything appears consistent with his original settings, until he notices a news article regarding Ki Naeun's brother is in a coma following an operation. In his original setting, this was the moment when Naeun's older brother Ki Jinyoon earned his first major recognition. Naeun, who was 13 at the time, was immensely proud of him becoming a hero. That was the version he wrote. Another message appears on his laptop. A notice states that modified settings will only be revealed to him once he experiences them firsthand. In the original story, Jinyoon was Naeun's reliable brother and a supporter of Kim Suho. But now it is a different story. An image appears of Jinyoon lying on the ground, blood splattered around him. A system note follows. It has been determined that the protagonist had too many supporters. Therefore, the setting has been revised. Ki Jinyoon was involved in an accident. During that incident, he received a demon mark and became a demon seed. Seeing this altered setting leaves Hajin stunned and speechless. The scene shifts. News broadcasts report on the museum incident, praising how the vice captain of Essence of the Strait handled the monsters outside, but the television is abruptly turned off. Naeun sits in a hospital room, visibly depressed. Her father rushes in, calling out her name. She looks surprised to see him and asks why he left work. To him, she matters more than anything else. He immediately asks about her condition. She insists that she's fine. He urges her to undergo a full examination, but she resists, saying nothing is wrong and asking again why he came all the way there. He was worried. She reassures him once more. Then she hesitates before asking something. She asks if she can see her brother before being discharged. Her father looks at her with concern. He gently takes her hand and agrees. Demon seed. Demons, higher entities than demonic humans, can brand humans and turn them into demon seeds. Those marked enter an incubation period, eventually blossoming into full-fledged demons. In Hajin's original settings, that incubation period was 5 to 6 years. Half of that time has already passed. Faced with this twisted development, Hajin can only see one solution. Before the demon inside Ki Jinyoon awakens, he must be killed. But how and by whom? No mercenary would accept a request to assassinate the 4th generation of a Kibal family. There are no visible signs that the seed is budding, making it impossible to justify action. If Jinyoon fully blossoms into a demon, even Kim Suho wouldn't be able to defeat him alone. Mobilizing active heroes would still lead to inevitable casualties. That cannot happen. Those heroes are meant to become vital strength in the later stages of the story. Which means, in the end, Naeun stands by her brother's bedside, calling out to him and telling him she's here. On the other side, Hajin reaches a grim conclusion. He will have to be the one to kill him. Naeun talks softly about the museum incident, saying it was her first time facing a demonic human and that she almost died. She begins to mention Hajin, but abruptly stops and changes the subject, saying it's not important. Soon, she's informed that visiting hours are over. She tells her brother she'll return, and walks out, with a hardened expression. As she leaves, Hajin's words echo in her mind. Her face twists with anger and her resentment turns toward him. The scene shifts again at the hero's tower. Inside the file room, Yoon Seungga browses through restricted documents without authorization, while her assistant nervously worries about getting caught. She brushes off his concerns, saying she only needs a quick look at today's museum attack. The demonic human's body contained traces of light attribute mana. That means one of the 3 cadets who defeated him used the light attribute. She grows excited. Light attribute users are exceptionally effective against demonic humans. If she can recruit one, it would be a major asset. Among the 3 cadets present, Kim Suho and Ki Naeun are already known. But Kim Hajin, ranked 934th, is a name she has never encountered before. Back at the academy, Hajin makes another realization. No one else can see his laptop. That means he can freely check and modify settings without worrying about being noticed. After this realization, a new function appears. Now, if any setting deviates from his original novel within a 30-meter radius, he will receive a notification. This is far more efficient than relying on vague messages from the co-author. Just then, someone calls out his name. It's Naeun. She looks furious and demands a sparring match. Hajin doesn't respond at first, then outright refuses. She provokes him, asking if he's scared after talking about someone's family. He calmly replies that they are using live rounds and he doesn't want to injure a classmate and face consequences. That only angers her further. An instructor intervenes and tells Naeun to back off since Hajin still doesn't have a proper training weapon. Annoyed, she complies and walks away. As she leaves, Hajin thinks to himself that there's no need to apologize yet. His primary objective remains unchanged. He is working relentlessly to grow stronger so that he can eventually kill her brother. Even if he improves their relationship now, she would only feel more betrayed in the end. The focus shifts once more to another club room within Cube. A club president introduces himself. The club is called Truth and his name is Yoon Hyun. Their activities revolve around monster analysis and raid strategy research. They gather weekly for discussions. His appearance and charisma captivate the audience, especially the female cadets. An attractive appearance, the ability to captivate others. Both are traits of a demon. Cube, as a crucial stage in the early part of the story, experiences various incidents, cadet kidnappings, monster invasions, and more. Yoon Hyun is the villain orchestrating those events. He is a demonic human who obtained the captivation gift from the demon Lilith, and his primary target is none other than Yoo Yeonha, which is also the reason why Hajin joined this academic club as well. As part of the first orientation, Yoon Hyun tells everyone to relax and not feel pressured. He introduces an upper intermediate grade monster known as the Mountain Tyrant, which first appeared during Outcall. That gives it nearly 50 years of recorded history. Both inside and outside of Cube, information on high-grade monsters is extremely valuable. Details about their weak points can be worth millions. He asks the club members if anyone knows the Mountain Tyrant's weak point, then deliberately calls on Yoo Yeonha. She answers that she doesn't know. He smiles and says that is the correct response. Discussions like this, he explains, are part of the club's enjoyment. He invites everyone to join the after-party if they want to continue the conversation. Hajin asks Yeonha if she plans to attend. She ignores him and walks away. Slightly irritated, he asks again, this time more formally. She replies that she will attend, as she might gain useful information. He then asks whether she intends to pass that information to her guild's raiding team. Essence of the Strayed. 50 years ago, during Outcall, the guild was founded with the Yu family at its core. It has since grown into one of the most influential guilds in South Korea. Hajin continues, mentioning that he heard the vice guildmaster's influence within the guild has been growing lately, so much so that even she, the legitimate successor, is being threatened. That, he implies, is why she is attending the after-party in search of information. Yeonha tells him to get to the point. Hajin says he will tell her the Mountain Tyrant's weak point. She is visibly surprised. He adds that if she truly intends to take over the guild in the future, she will need to accumulate achievements. Then he reveals the information, the blue mark on the Mountain Tyrant's heel. If struck there, its movement can be halted. However, he isn't offering this for free, since Essence of the Strait operates the essential armory. He wants her to acquire a Desert Eagle for him. She pauses and asks what his basis is for this claim. Hajin smirks and says he doesn't have one. The blunt answer leaves her speechless. Annoyed, she calls the entire conversation a waste of time. Hajin warns her that she may regret not trusting him. If she ignores him, information worth billions could be lost. But if she believes him, he could become a valuable ally. The following day, she calls her secretary and instructs him to pass along a message to the raiding team. The blue mark on the Mountain Tyrant's heel might be its weak point, so they should try targeting it. She gives the order while faintly blushing. Meanwhile, Hajin receives a loan notice under his name for 300 million won. He is stunned. Kim Chundong had taken out the maximum loan a cadet is allowed to borrow. He immediately checks the bank balance. 3 million won. At this rate, instead of returning to his original world, he might spend the rest of his life buried in debt. He decides he needs to make money immediately. There are currently two methods he knows. The first is stocks. Towers and dungeons continue to appear throughout the world and guilds are formed to raid them. Public guilds operate like enterprises and their stocks are traded on the market. Hajin already knows which guilds will rise in the future, but he doesn't have enough capital to invest. That option is unavailable. The only remaining choice is field hunting. Field zones are areas where monsters appear. Unlike towers and dungeons, the danger level varies greatly. But monster corpses can be traded directly for money. The problem is that his stats are only slightly above those of an average adult. At his current level, field hunting would be risky. Reinforcing his training gun right now would only waste SP. He searches for another solution. Then there's a knock on his door. A package from Yoo Yeonha. Confused, he opens the briefcase and is surprised by what's inside. The scene shifts to Gangwon-do, Wonju Field Region. A receptionist thanks Hajin for using the portal. The moment he mentions he is a cadet, her tone becomes noticeably more polite. He exits the portal station and steps into the city. Gangwon-do's field region is considered low danger. Foreign hunters frequently visit, earning it the nickname International Metropolis. The streets are busy, some people look for party members, others sell potions. A few even spread rumors about a man hunting monsters naked. As Hajin walks, he notices an agency office. Selling monster materials through an agency would likely be more advantageous. He considers whether he should find an agent. Suddenly, someone approaches him from behind and asks if he's here to hunt monsters. Hajin asks if the man is an agent. He confirms and attempts to hand over his business card but drops it clumsily. Hajin notes the awkwardness when he looks at the card. He is startled. This is Park Soo-hyuk, the best agency representative in Korea, and the man destined to become Kim Soo-ho's agent. Hajin is surprised to meet him here. Without hesitation, he tells Park Soo-hyuk that he wants to sign a contract. Park is caught off guard. Hajin reflects that the story is still in its early stages. Many people haven't yet realized their significance. Forming connections now could be beneficial. Still, one thought lingers in his mind. Is it really alright for him to take away Kim Soo-ho's future agent? Now at the field zone, Hajin asks Park Soo-hyuk if it's fine for him to follow along. Soo-hyuk tells him not to worry and says that if things get dangerous, Hajin should just leave him behind. Hajin finds that odd, since agents without vehicles usually wait outside the field. Soon, Soo-hyuk spots hobgoblin footprints. Hobgoblins are easy targets and sell for around 300,000 to 400,000 won per head. But Hajin calculates quickly, one magic bullet costs him nearly 200,000 won. The profit margin isn't good enough. A more expensive monster would be better. Instead, he points toward another target. It's a boar. Soo-hyuk confirms it's a steel boar, and immediately warns him that his weapon won't be able to pierce its outer hide. Hajin simply replies that they'll see. Soo-hyuk is surprised by the confidence. Hajin draws his new weapon, the Desert Eagle high-grade steel attribute. It's the weapon he received from Yonha in exchange for the Mountain Tyrant's weak point. He has also added a specific setting to it using SB. Seeing the gun, Soo-hyuk panics and warns him again that he'll only enrage the monster. Hajin ignores him and starts firing. The bullet pierces straight through the steel boar. Soo-hyuk is left speechless. As the boar collapses in a single shot, blue smoke drifts from the Desert Eagle's barrel as Hajin examines it, casually commenting that it's not bad. Soo-hyuk praises both the weapon and Hajin's shooting ability, but Hajin brushes it off as nothing special. Then Hajin suddenly fires another shot, startling Soo-hyuk. When asked what he shot at, Hajin points toward a black pelican beyond a distant cliff. Soo-hyuk is shocked and asks if he could really see that far. Hajin replies that such a distance is nothing more than an arm's reach for him. With the hunt complete, they prepare to leave. By evening, the steel boar and black pelican corpses are ready for transport. Soo-hyuk comments that even though there are only two, they are extremely heavy. Hajin asks if he can carry them out of the field. Soo-hyuk suggests calling dispatch instead and paying the fee, adding that he'll deposit the reward money into Hajin's account tomorrow. Hajin nods, thinking that Park Soo-hyuk truly knows how to handle things. They shake hands. Soo-hyuk asks how his first hunt felt and what he plans to spend the money on. Hajin answers bluntly, for buying stocks. Soo-hyuk looks confused. A new guild, Packhorse Masters. In the setting, it was founded by a demonic human and plays an important role in the story. However, what truly matters is the dungeon they raid, the Suwon Demon Den. After clearing that dungeon, their stock will skyrocket by nearly 1,000%. Buying it is guaranteed profit. An easy way to make money. Hajin searches for additional useful information. Public forums don't provide much, so he visits a darker website, the Violet Society. That reminds him of something important. The Chameleon Troupe. They are the main villains in the latter half of the story. True to their name, every member's identity is concealed. The only person who truly knows their locations and movements is the author, Hajin himself. They are a criminal organization, yet they despise demonic humans. If that's the case, perhaps their leader could help him eliminate Ki Jin-yoon. According to the original story, one of their seats is currently vacant. They should be preparing to make their move soon. Suddenly, his laptop shuts down. Hajin's heart sinks for a moment. He fears he has lost his only connection to returning home. But it powers back on and he exhales in relief. A notification appears. 1 month has passed. The laptop begins updating its features. The scene shifts to a restaurant. People turn their heads, charmed by the presence of two figures, Yu Yonha and Shin Jonghak. Some even wonder if they are celebrities. Shin looks irritated by the high society gathering and questions when these events will stop. Yonha tells him to endure it, explaining that building connections with influential figures isn't a bad thing. She asks about his grades. He replies that they're fine when she tries to provoke him about aiming for first place. He cuts her off, repeating that it's fine. She responds with a simple acknowledgement. The door opens. Ki Naeun enters. Yonha is about to greet her, but Shin immediately stands up and approaches Naeun, asking when she started attending these gatherings. She replies that she would have skipped it if she had known he would be there. He asks about her condition. She dismisses it, telling him not to overreact. Yonha watches the interaction, visibly irritated. Then Naeun suddenly asks if they know Kim Hajin. Yonha is surprised. Naeun explains that during the museum incident, she was with Hajin and Kim Soo-ho. The demonic human was far stronger than expected, and Hajin shot off its arm with a handgun. Because of that, she calls him suspicious. Since Yonho was on the same team as him, Naeun directs the question to her. Yonho is caught off guard. Yonha had already looked into Hajin before, an orphan from an orphanage, a cube cadet 300 million won in debt. That was everything she could find. Beyond that, he remained a mystery. Even when she questioned him directly, he gave her nothing. So for now, they have no choice but to keep investigating. They need to determine whether he is someone worth using or not. Based on what she witnessed during the practical, Yonha states that Hajin does not possess enough raw power to blow off a demonic human's arm. Naeun suddenly suggests that maybe he's a demonic human himself. Yonha counters that if he were, he wouldn't have attacked his own kind. But Naeun insists he is definitely hiding something. Shin suddenly slams his hand against the table and asks them bluntly if what they mean is that they just don't like him. Neither of them responds. Back to Hajin, the laptop update reaches 99.99%. Suddenly his wrist begins to glow and a sharp pain shoots through his arm. His vision blurs. A mark forms on his wrist. Stigma, one of the creator's authorities. A massive influx of information crashes into his mind like a tidal wave. Hajin collapses from the overwhelming pain. The update completes. A low-grade gift called Book of Truth has been added. Observation and reading has also been strengthened. Elsewhere, Naeun recalls what he said at the museum. The memory twists her expression into something grim. Soon after the museum incident, Kim Suho, Ki Naeun, and Hajin are awarded the Exemplary Citizen Award for defeating the demonic human. Hajin stands there with a bandage wrapped around his wrist. The wound still aches from yesterday. He studies the mark, wondering what kind of ability it truly is. Beside him is an irritated Naeun. This brat tells him to shut up. Hajin replies that he hasn't said anything, but she repeats it anyway. He asks if she forgot something. Forgot what? She snaps. That I saved you, he replied. She flares up in anger, ready to argue, but Suho steps in and tells them to stop. He asks Naeun to switch seats with him, though reluctant. She eventually moves, leaving Suho beside Hajin. Suho clears his throat and thanks Hajin for what happened at the museum. Hajin acts confused, but Suho sincerely tells him they wouldn't have won without his help. Hajin dismisses it, saying they probably would have won anyway. Without his interference, Suho might have awakened even greater power. After all, the protagonist always grows stronger when pushed into danger. The announcer calls for attention. Someone has arrived. An older-looking man walks in with an indifferent expression. It is the supreme hero Yu Sehyuk, ranked 37th, known as Valhalla's Wolf. His presence alone radiates immense magic power, drawing murmurs from the crowd. The ceremony begins. Yu Sehyuk personally hands out the awards. The announcer gives a brief speech about their bravery and how they faced a demonic human as exemplary citizens. Sehyuk confirms Kim Suho's identity and comments that he can see why certain people are interested in him. Suho politely replies that he's flattered. As he hands Suho the award, Sehyuk advises him not to join the association. Working as a hunter under vast plain might be better. Suho responds that he still believes he is suited to becoming a hero. Sehyuk finds that answer boring. Next, he turns to Naeun and remarks that it's been a while. She begins to call him master, but he cuts her off, asking why he would be her master when she's an archer. Her father only asked him to look after her, something he has no real interest in. Then he looks at Hajin. Who are you? Hajin introduces himself. Sehyuk hands him the award with a simple acknowledgement that indifference stings more than hatred. With that, the ceremony ends, and Naeun is asked to deliver a short speech. Later that day, Hajin treats himself using the reward money. He plans to invest further in Packhorse Masters. Now he examines his laptop's new features. First is Stigma. The wound on his wrist, the instructions are vague. It says he can use it however he wishes. As I wish. The moment he says those words, the stigma glows and begins projecting outward. Startled, he suppresses it immediately since he's still in public. He decides to examine it properly once he returns to his room. Next is laptop internet access. When he opens it, he's shocked. This isn't normal internet access. It includes restricted sites that normally require massive entrance fees. Among them is the Violet Society, the most well-known underground network. It deals in information, weapons, bounties, and requests. Nearly every hero has interacted with it at some point. The government tolerates it despite knowing of its existence. Normally, accessing it requires a significant fee. But Hajin can sign up using just 200 SB. Just as he completes the registration, someone approaches his table. It's Yoon Seunga. She asks if he knows who she is, and mentions she was surprised he disappeared during the ceremony. She hands him her card. There is weight behind that gesture. Yoon Seunga offering her card is not a trivial matter. She says there's something she's curious about and asks if she can ask him a question. Hajin immediately recognizes it. This is the first step of Yoon Seunga's scouting. Hajin is fully aware of who Yoon Seunga truly is. In the public eye, she appears kind and graceful, but in reality she is ruthless. Anyone who fails to meet her expectations is discarded without hesitation. Even if she personally recruits someone with great effort, she still abides by the law of survival of the fittest, like a predator in the wild. That is the true nature of the vice-captain of the nation's greatest guild. Still, forming a connection with her now could be extremely beneficial later in the story. As Seunga begins to ask her question, Hajin cuts her off. Hajin replied no immediately. Before she can even finish, he shuts her down, telling her he has nothing to say. She calmly suggests that he might be misunderstanding her intentions. She is expressing interest as the vice captain of Korea's top guild. Hajin replies that he appreciates the interest, but only if it is genuine. He already knows why she approached him. She must have discovered that he used a light attribute attack, but what she feels right now is nothing more than curiosity. And curiosity fades. If he accepts her now, that curiosity will end there. Instead, he chooses to reject her so that what she feels evolves into something more. With that, he stands up and leaves. Yoon Seung-ga is left completely stunned. Back in his room, Hajin begins experimenting with his stigma. He focuses his magic power and imagines a dagger. The stigma glows, a dagger forms. He realizes he can manifest it simply through thought. Magic power directly influences gifts and early learning. Initially, he had worried that he might not be able to use such abilities properly since he doesn't originally belong to this world. But at the very least, he can wield this much. Next, he tests the Book of Truth. When he calls its name, the stigma glows up, and the book materializes through his stigma. The Book of Truth contains answers. It can respond to any question provided his magic power is sufficient. To test it, he asks something simple, his own height. The answer appears correctly. It consumes 1 SP. Now he understands how to use it. Suddenly, his smartwatch glows red, an emergency notice. A cadet has gone missing. Hajin's expression stiffens. Has it begun? The second arc, the Cube serial murder incident, over the course of this storyline. 6 cadets disappear. The culprit leaves no trace, and as the investigation grows more chaotic, the number of missing persons increases as if in mockery. This arc is crucial. The final target is Yu Yonha. If the co-author's interference results in losing another one of the protagonist's supporters, just like what nearly happened at the museum, it would be disastrous. For a moment, Hajin considers intervening immediately, but reckless interference could cause even greater changes. For now, he decides to observe. Elsewhere in the training room, Suho drinks water, clearly fatigued. A student approaches him and asks him to take a look at something. A few cadets are blocking Hajin from training, mocking him for failing to lift heavy weights. They ridicule him for being too weak to deserve his place at Cube, and accuse him of embarrassing the academy. Suho immediately moves to intervene, but another student stops him, saying there's no need. Suho calls out Yonghin, questioning why he is allowing this despite being class president. Yonghin replies that Hajin has offended Shin Jonghak. It would be troublesome to get involved. Besides, if Hajin truly destroyed a demonic human's arm, he wouldn't let himself be bullied like this. Hajin attempts to lift the weights again and fails. The onlookers are shocked that he cannot even manage that amount. Yonghin dismisses his museum feat as mere luck. At that moment, Suho steps forward to defend him, while Naeun watches silently from the corner. Suddenly, the instructor arrives, scolding everyone for causing a disturbance during training hours. He orders them to gather, announcing that the results of the recent quiz have been posted. The cadets crowd around the poster, comparing scores. Hajin ranks first. It makes sense, he essentially referenced his own settings. Behind him, Rachel drops her rapier in shock. Rachel Elizabeth Louise, England's princess, currently ranked 3rd in Cube. Since entering the academy, she has never placed below 1st in any exam. Her expression freezes. A brief memory flashes her mansion in England, her butler and assistant congratulating her on entering Cube and excelling in Korean studies. She had promised to uphold the honor of England's royal family. Now back in the present, she lowers her head, feeling as if she has disappointed them. The instructor praises Hajin's answers in phenomenon realm analysis and tells everyone to learn from him. Rachel clenches her resolve she will close the gap. But phenomenon realm analysis is notoriously difficult. Surpassing him before midterms will not be easy. From that day onward, she begins quietly observing him in class, wondering how he studies. Back in his room, Hajin visits a site called Information Center for Veritas. He plans to use the Book of Truth to answer questions and earn some extra money. The book can provide information from anywhere in the world as long as he has enough SP. For now, profits will be small. He has no reputation. But once rumors spread, customers will follow. He registers as a seller. And next, he prepares to finally invest the SP he has been holding onto. With the second main story underway, Cube is no longer safe from demonic humans. Hajin reviews his abilities, setting intervention Deadeye. It's clear that what he currently has isn't enough to face demonic humans head-on. Still, thanks to the bullying from Shin Jonghak's group, he has accumulated a considerable amount of SP. He decides to focus on survivability. First, he upgrades his weapon. He adds a transformation feature, allowing his Desert Eagle to convert into a sniper rifle. The modification costs 250 SP. For a moment, he wonders if he overdid it. But when the handgun shifts into a sleek sniper rifle, he can't help but chuckle after testing it. He reverts it back to its original form. Next, he turns to arts. Unlike gifts which produce supernatural phenomena through magic power, arts are refined physical techniques. For a sharpshooter, positioning is crucial for both survival and assassination. With that in mind, he creates an art Parker flexible and swift body movement. It consumes 350 SP. He feels the change instantly. The enhancement worked. Just then, his smartwatch flashes again. Another missing cadet, Seung-ga from the Universe class. Hajin recognizes it as the second victim of the Cube serial murder incident. Everyone taken before Yu Yonha was ultimately killed by the culprit. He hesitates. He knows who the culprit is. He knows who the next victim will be. Is it really acceptable to stand by and watch? The doubt lingers in his mind. The following morning at the Cube Outdoor Training Hall, the instructor gathers everyone. Today's practical training will be different. Behind him stands a cave, the result of advanced magic engineering, an artificial dungeon. Inside, monster puppets replicate real monsters. The cadets will conduct a simulated dungeon raid. However, the instructor warns them not to underestimate it. The dungeon is massive, and today marks a joint exercise between Class Veritas and Class Discipline. Teams from both classes will merge into larger units. Hajin joins Team 8. Yonha Jin Hosung Heizuki, and from Discipline Jadin Kim Jingyu O Sujiang and Li Jinsha. He recalls that the artificial dungeon contains traps and hidden mechanics. Some could even be linked to demonic human interference. Just in case, he has prepared attribute bullets. He wonders if they'll all make it out safely. Suddenly, a notification. A setting change has occurred, not one but three. Hajin scans the area. In Kim Suho's team, Jo Yuna yells at him to hurry up and mocks him for looking like a breadstick. A notification states her personality has become more bad-tempered. Back in Hajin's team, Jadin grabs Yonha's hand while introducing himself. She looks visibly disgusted. A notification appears. Jadin's growth potential has increased by 0.5. In Nayun's team, a cadet from the hunting club introduces himself as Sven. Another notification, his mental state has worsened, and the probability of being encroached by a demon pawn during the dungeon raid has significantly increased. Hajin's mind races. This is a catastrophe. He analyzes the two most concerning variables. First is Jadin, a typical narcissist who acts strong before the weak but submits before the strong. He's talented enough to attract interest from essence of the straight. But why has his growth potential increased? Then the next one is Sven, a government-funded international student from Germany. A top prospect, he's always excelled until Cube. Surrounded by monsters in human form, and things just don't turn out as planned. So eventually, he became painfully average. For the first time, he tasted inferiority. Add adolescence and instability, and in the original story, he eventually sold his soul to a demon for power. That much aligns with Hajin's memory, but the notification specifies during the dungeon raid. His awakening has been moved up. Hajin hopes the deviation won't spiral out of control. A hand suddenly grips his shoulder. It's Jadin. He asks if Hajin is the sharpshooter and tells him not to lower his guard in the dungeon. Hajin curtly tells him to get lost. Jadin smirks and remarks that the rumors about him seem accurate. That irritates Hajin. Apparently, his reputation has plummeted. A rumor from the Universe class claims that Kim Hajin abuses his position as a cadet for blackmail and spends weekends in Seoul indulging in debauchery. It's obvious who spread it. What surprises him more is that no one is stepping in, even though they're supposed to be teammates. The instructor orders the teams to enter in sequence, starting with Team 7. Jadin casually brings up Yonha's first place ranking in the supporter division. She replies that she's also heard rumors about him and suggests the team compositions might have been a mistake. Jadin gestures toward Hajin and comments that when there's someone carrying the team, there's always someone dragging it down. That remark pushes Hajin's irritation even further. Team 8 steps into the dungeon. They arrive at a junction with multiple routes branching out. Jadin wonders if this is the first trial. Yonha asks which path they should take, and Jadin turns to his team's sharpshooter Jingyu for input. Before Jingyu can respond, Hajin speaks up. Number 6. Jadin immediately frowns, ready to reject the suggestion, but Yonha accepts it without hesitation. She even comments, even if he looks stupid, he's got one hell of an eye. Hajin thinks to himself that this worked out perfectly. Thanks to Yonha backing him, they can take the same route Nayun's team chose. If Sven really does form a contract with a demonic human here, Nayun won't be able to handle it alone. If something happens to her, the story will spiral beyond repair. He cannot let her die. Thanks to Yonha backing him, they can take the same route Nayun's team chose. They proceed down Route 6. Jadin is still irritated at Hajin's attitude, but Hajin tells him to focus on the monsters ahead instead. Jadin scoffs and asks what monsters he's talking about. Hajin asks if he seriously can't see it. A salamander stands before them, and Hajin is certain it's also linked to a dungeon switch. Oh Sujiang asks if she should fire a light arrow. The arrow illuminates the dark corridor, revealing a lower intermediate grade 6 monster salamander. Jadin orders everyone into battle formation and asks if anyone can use the water attribute. Hajin notes internally that now isn't the right moment for that. They stick to the orthodox approach. Yonha lashes out with her whip just as the salamander prepares a breath attack. She clamps its mouth shut with precise timing. Heizuki and Sujiang follow up with coordinated strikes, and the salamander is defeated swiftly. Hajin notices Yonha's whip crackling with electricity and wonders if she has already reached the Eye of Enlightenment stage. Just as he mentally acknowledges her skill, he trips over a pebble and crashes into her. Something whistles past them. They both hit the ground face first. Hajin breaks into a cold sweat. Yonha angrily tells him to get off. He scrambles away. She grabs his collar, ready to retaliate, but the team spots something. An arrow embedded in the wall. Hajin realizes it happened at the exact moment they fell. It wasn't an accident. It was a real poison arrow tipped with neurotoxins. Elsewhere, Sven is running. An arrow strikes him. He apologizes, telling his teammates to leave him behind. Nayun snaps at him to shut up. If he has the strength to talk, he has the strength to run. She's shocked that training includes poison darts. She grabs Sven and drags him along. Behind them looms a massive lava monster. Naeun shouts in disbelief, questioning why such a creature would appear here. Back with teammate, they continue battling waves of smaller lizard-like monsters. Jingyu is pressured until Jaden blocks with his shield, allowing Jingyu to fire safely. Yonha fights independently as well. Eventually, the skirmish ends. They comment on how manageable it's been so far, mostly salamanders. Aside from the earlier poison arrow, no major traps. They decide to push forward. But Hajin keeps thinking about that arrow. It didn't feel like a simple trap. Not even a cadet would have easily detected it. A faint heat flickers behind them. Hajin senses something, he turns. The salamander's still alive, charging a breath attack. He's stunned, it should have been defeated. It breathes fire. There's no time to warn anyone. Hajin thrusts out his hand and activates his stigma. He converts its magic power into a wall of water. A massive surge of water materializes, completely blocking the flaming breath. After the attack, the salamander collapses on its own. The team stares at the aftermath. The power felt real. Even the residual heat burned their skin. Jaden grabs Hajin by the collar and demands to know why he didn't reveal he could use the water attribute earlier. Hajin brushes it off, claiming it's the effect of his magic armament. Jaden doesn't believe him. Yonha steps in and orders them to stop. Oh Sujeong points out that the salamander seemed real, not a puppet. Yonha theorizes that since the environment is optimized like a real dungeon, perhaps a lizard naturally evolved or wandered in. For now, they move on, assuming it might count as bonus points, but Yonha is unconvinced. The magic armament excuse doesn't add up. Hajin could barely afford his Desert Eagle. How could he own something capable of attribute conversion? Only talents like Kim Suho or Shin Jonghak can freely imbue attributes into their magic power. He knew the Mountain Tyrant's weak point. He can manipulate attributes. Why is he hiding it? Naeun's earlier suspicion resurfaces in her mind. Is he really? Meanwhile, Team 3 stands before an intermediate grade Class 5 monster, the Magma Golem. They suspect it's the dungeon boss. One cadet asks Naeun if they can defeat it. She says it will be difficult and suggests waiting for other teams. Jo Yuna tells them to properly treat Sven's injury. Naeun glances around, still uneasy about where that poison arrow came from. The training feels abnormally dangerous. Sven lowers his head. He apologizes for being hit. His voice trembles as he breaks down, saying nothing has gone right since entering Cube. Surrounded by geniuses, he feels like he's drowning in mediocrity. The weight of inferiority crushes him, and the dungeon grows heavier with tension. Sven suddenly hears a voice calling out to him. He tries to find out what is happening, confused. The voice asks if he wants to become stronger. It offers him strength. The price, it says, is low, far lower than continuing to risk everything as he is now. A hand stretches out toward him. Sven rises and reaches for it. He accepts. The demon begins absorbing him completely. Sven screams in agony. His teammates notice immediately and start to panic, asking what's wrong. Naeun orders them to hold him down, but the magma golem hears the commotion and approaches. Naeun shouts for everyone to run. As the golem spews lava from its mouth, it slams down where they were standing moments ago, but they've already scattered. Naeun carries Sven on her back as debris and heat fill the air. Some of her teammates are blown away by the shockwave. She barely manages to keep her footing. Coughing through the smoke, she sees the golem closing in. There's no way this is just a puppet. The golem begins charging another attack. For a split second, Naeun is certain she's about to die here. Then suddenly, a bullet strikes the golem. Water splashes across its body. Naeun looks up in confusion and sees someone standing across the dungeon. It's our boy Kim Hajin. A few minutes earlier, Hajin and his team had arrived at a massive wall blocking their path. One of them complains, saying Hajin claimed the boss field would be here, yet it's sealed off. Hajin replies that it is here. There shouldn't be a wall, but that detail doesn't matter now. He tells Jaden the boss field lies beyond it and suggests breaking through. Jaden attempts to destroy the wall, but the recoil injures him instead. Even a slash infused with magic power leaves no mark. Heizuki notices something. A gap near the top of the wall. Hajin points it out, suggesting they climb. Jaden scoffs it's over 10 meters high. Hajin replies that if they can't climb it, he'll go alone. He activates Parker and scales the wall smoothly. Watching him move, Jaden mutters in disbelief. Then the dungeon begins to shake. Back in the boss area, the magma golem is already moving. Hajin shouts at Naeun to get away from the area. At that moment, her team regroups and forms battle formation, launching attacks, but the golem doesn't even flinch. Naeun rises and readies her bow. She begins charging a powerful shot and tells her teammates to buy her time. While everyone is busy trying to attack the monster, suddenly someone makes a move and lands a heavy blow on the golem. He apologizes for being late. It's Sven. As Naeun finishes charging her attack, Sven flips away from the golem. She recalls the museum incident and declares that this time will be different. She releases her shot. The attack obliterates the magma golem in a single strike. The creature shatters into pieces. Her teammates stare in disbelief, wondering if defeating it will count toward their score. Naeun and Sven check on everyone, and the team praises Naeun for her finishing blow. She simply calls it her finisher. Hajin observes Sven carefully. He hasn't fully transformed into a demon, the plot has shifted but only delayed. Sven still made a deal. And now that his instability is uncertain, the situation is even more dangerous. Naeun notices Hajin sitting alone. After a moment of hesitation, she approaches him. She says she thought she should at least say this. With slight awkwardness, she thanks him. Hajin is genuinely surprised and asks her to repeat it. Embarrassed, she snaps that she already said it. Ki Naeun actually thanking someone. That's rare. Her life has been filled with tragedy. On her 6th birthday, she lost her mother to a demonic human. From that day on, she trained relentlessly to become a hero. While other children played, she pushed herself beyond limits. Opening up to others felt like exposing weakness. As a result, she rarely formed deep bonds. More I'm sorry than thank you. That's how Hajin wrote her. Naeun then questions him. If he's strong enough to stop a magma golem, why does he let Shin Jonghak's group harass him? With that kind of power, he could knock them out easily. Hajin replies that even if he wanted to, he can't beat them, so he lets it go. Naeun doubts that. She saw the strength of his weapon. Hajin shows it to her and says it's a private weapon. That's the explanation. She panics, saying he'll be expelled if anyone finds out. Besides, he's already figured out how to conceal it within his stigma. Hajin tells Naeun that once he hides the weapon inside his stigma, there's nothing for anyone to find. He won't have to worry about being expelled. But Naeun isn't convinced. Even without that weapon, he's too strong. She asks if he perhaps has a gift that strengthens firearms. Hajin simply tells her to go with that. Satisfied, she says she already knew and will pretend she didn't see anything. Then she pauses. She asks if he has anything he wants to say to her. Hajin stays silent for a moment before answering that he doesn't. She responds with a quiet "I see" and walks away. He knows that if he apologized now, if he addressed what he said about her brother, she would probably forgive him, but he can't. He has to keep their relationship distant and awkward, because in the future, he has to kill Ki Jinyun. One of Naeun's teammates asks if she's close with Hajin. She replies bluntly no. Sven watches the exchange with a strange expression. Suddenly, an announcement echoes through the dungeon. The raid is suspended. All cadets must exit immediately. Multiple issues occurred during the dungeon test. Several cameras malfunctioned at the beginning. Real monsters infiltrated the artificial dungeon. The distribution of examiners was disrupted. By the time these issues were recognized, it was too late. A serious incident happened, but thankfully no casualties. Cube announces that it will conduct its own internal investigation, instead of calling in an external agency. In other words, the demonic humans embedded within Cube executive ranks have successfully covered it up. A large-scale investigation will come after the second arc concludes. For now, Hajin sets that aside. Contracts with demons come with side effects, emotional hypertrophy and obsession. The worst-case scenario would be Sven losing control and going berserk while alone with Naeun. To prevent that, Hajin decides to monitor both of them. He opens their messages but hesitates, feeling a flicker of guilt at reading Naeun's. He finds a chat between her and Sven, discussing a bed. According to the original story, this is the day Sven goes berserk. Hajin decides to follow them and prepare in advance. Since he's grown stronger, he plans to head toward the MT Gar dungeon. Just then, his smartwatch lights up. He wonders who could be calling him. It's Kim Suho. After greeting him, Suho asks if Hajin has free time on Friday. There's something he'd like to ask of him. Now we're at Mount Gari in Gangwon-do, a place overflowing with pure spiritual energy. Because of that, it's known nationwide as the ultimate training ground, the mecca for martial artists. But not everyone who comes here is a fighter. Some roam the country searching for rare treasures instead. And one of those treasure hunters suddenly shows up. A strange-looking guy who casually introduces himself. Hajin just responds with a dry "I see." The man assumes Hajin is here for wild ginseng and immediately tells him he won't find any that way. Hajin calmly replies that he's not looking for ginseng, that there's somewhere specific he needs to go. But the guy completely ignores him, insisting everyone says the same thing, and then launches into a long-winded pitch about his business. Hajin doesn't bother engaging. He simply walks past him. The guy watches him leave, thinking Hajin still has a long way to go, but almost instantly, Hajin trips over something, and just like that, it turns out to be wild ginseng. Fast forward and Hajin is already eating it. Using his setting editing ability, he boosts its effect, increasing his variable stats by 2 for 30 minutes. Ironically, if he had sold it instead, it would have easily fetched at least 700,000. But to him, the immediate boost is far more valuable. Right after that, things take a turn as he suddenly slips along the mountainside. The cliff is insanely steep, making the place he's searching for nearly impossible to find. But hidden deep within Mount Gari, past layers of vines and moss, lies an undead dungeon. At its core is a high intermediate rank level 1 monster, the Death Knight. Even with the ginseng's buff, Hajin knows he's no match for it yet, but that's not his goal today. Suddenly, undead begin rising from the ground all around him. Hajin doesn't hesitate. His target isn't the boss, it's the hidden stage. He activates his stigma, summons his weapon, and starts firing. The undead fall one after another. Using clairvoyance, he maps out the entire path ahead, then flips over the horde mid-movement, picking them off with precise shots. In no time, he clears them all, but something's off. The number of undead keeps increasing. That's when he realizes he's getting close to Evangel's base, the hidden boss of Mount Gari's dungeon. In the future, Evangel will go on to create Evangel's castle, the worst undead fortress in history, hidden inside an abandoned school in Suwon. But right now, Hajin isn't here to stop her future, he's here for the rewards. 2 items: the growth-type equipment Etha and Evangel's seed. Etha is the very weapon that turned Jin Tomer into an executive of depravity. For Hajin, there's no better item to accelerate his growth. Following the path revealed by his clairvoyance, he moves forward until he reaches the end. There, a massive tree stands tall, its branches embedded with glowing purple crystals, and beneath it sits a small child. Hajin immediately understands what he's looking at, a fully matured which would be far too dangerous to handle. The only chance to stop one is before they fully develop, while both their body and intelligence are still incomplete. The child notices him. Hajin stares silently, but for a moment he hesitates. Pulling the trigger on something that looks so harmless isn't easy, but he forces himself to snap out of it. It has to be done. And more importantly, Hajin himself is the one who created her. Without another word, he raises his weapon. A witch in spiritual form can't be killed with a normal attack in a single blow. So instead, Hajin activates his stigma again, converting light attribute magic into a spear. He can feel the wild ginseng still boosting him. With a brief thought, feeling almost like Yu Yonha, he throws the spear. It lands perfectly, a direct hit, but she's still alive. Her body begins to fade, cracks spreading across her form as she slowly disintegrates. Moments later, she completely disappears. Hajin watches quietly, concluding it was probably just a final surge before death. And just like that, it's over. From her remains, he obtains both rewards, Etha and Evangel's seed. With Ether equipped, all of Hajin's variable stats increase by 0.6, and he immediately notes how impressive the bound effect is. If it's already this good now, he's certain it'll become even stronger as it grows. With this boost, he's finally on equal footing with a cube cadet. On top of that, he now has 47 SP, and the remaining wild ginseng has already been listed on Violet Banquet. It should be sold soon. But more important than any of that is Evangel's seed, the Witch of Despair. Even the name sounds sinister. Still, Hajin is confident that if it's raised properly, it can become a powerful ally. Growing it is simple. Instead of water, it requires blood, just a small amount. But there's a critical detail. The witch's nature and tendencies change depending on whose blood it consumes. Because of that, Hajin knows he has to be careful, or everyone will think that he has a dark passenger inside him or something. Still, he continues to figure out ways to solve this problem without giving off a Dexter's vibe, but has no clue to do so. For now, he sets it aside and decides to get some rest, knowing tomorrow will be exhausting. Now we move to Gangwon Province, Byeokpa Mountain Spring. The club president is taking attendance, introducing herself since it's their first proper meeting after orientation. She once again explains the club's purpose, the hunting club. Leonidas regularly organizes gatherings like this, where members hunt harmful animals as both training and a way to help citizens. Meanwhile, Hajin is deep in thought. In the original story, today's incident only had a general outcome. Naeun would be severely injured and later die from the aftermath of a demonic human's rampage. It was nothing more than a plot device to push Suho into caring more about her. The plan was simple: make it seem like Naeun is the target. While everyone focuses on protecting her, the real target is attacked elsewhere, but something feels off. Sven's behavior doesn't match the original setting. He hasn't gone completely berserk, in fact, he's subtly using Jin power. Hajin even considers taking him out right now. Nearby, Naeun notices Hajin glancing her way, confused. She wonders why he keeps lingering around while acting like he doesn't care. She starts overthinking it, even questioning if he likes her. At that moment, Sven warns her to stay alert. She assumes it's about Hajin, but Sven instead mentions the recent disappearances. Naeun immediately defends Hajin, saying he's not that kind of person, which only irritates Sven. From a distance, Hajin observes both of them as the hunt begins. Soon during the hunt, something strange happens. Creepy tendrils suddenly emerge and choke a deer to death. It is none other than Sven. He's using demonic power, but as soon as someone calls out to him, he stops immediately. It's Naeun, casually carrying a deer and proudly claiming she won their bet. But when she sees Sven's score, she's shocked. There's no way he should have that many. Sven calmly tells her he won, which means she has to grant his wish. Blushing, he hesitates, then asks her out. Hajin watches everything from the bushes. He already knows Sven is contracted with the demon of lust, Asmodeus. For someone like him, whose desires are amplified, patience simply doesn't exist. Naeun is caught off guard by the sudden confession. When Sven asks if she doesn't want to, she replies honestly, "I like people who are stronger than me." Hajin tenses, waiting. Naeun repeats herself, saying she only likes guys stronger than her. Sven's expression twists as she turns to leave, and his demonic power begins to leak out. He asks her again if that's really the case, and if it is, then she'll have no choice but to come to him once he proves he's stronger. Naeun turns back to tell him to stop, but suddenly she's attacked. Sven pauses for a moment, sensing something off, and then Hajin appears. Using Etha, he transforms it into a shield and blocks the attack, protecting Naeun. As he checks on her condition, Sven immediately turns on him. The tendrils wrap around Hajin, choking him. Naeun rushes to respond, gathering magic power in her hand, and striking Sven, but it has no effect. While Sven completely loses control, going fully berserk while spamming obsessive love confessions. Nayeon clenches her hand, pouring an enormous amount of mana into it. Hajin notices something immediately. Because this isn't normal, in this world there are rare individuals with immense potential who fail to reach it simply because they chose the wrong weapon. And among them, Nayeon is the greatest example. She shouts at Sven to let Hajin go and prepares a massive attack, and as she releases it, a huge surge of mana explodes forward, tearing through everything in its path. Her attack creates a massive, elongated crater in the ground. Seeing that, Hajin immediately asks Nayeon what that was, but she replies that she doesn't know herself. Still shaken, Nayeon asks if he's okay. Hajin answers that he is, but she asks again, making sure he's really fine. Then suddenly her body gives out. As she starts to lose consciousness, she murmurs that it's a relief, and Hajin quickly calls out her name in worry. Fast forward and it's already night. Nayeon slowly wakes up, only to be shocked when she realizes she's on Hajin's back. Hajin calmly tells her that she wasn't waking up, so he carried her down himself. Embarrassed, she tells him to put her down. Hajin says he really will, but Nayeon, now annoyed, tells him to hurry up. The moment he sets her down, however, she's unable to stand. Fear immediately sets in as she realizes she can't use her legs, and she starts wondering what happened to her. Hajin asks if this is her first time experiencing mana exhaustion, which leaves her momentarily dumbfounded, seeing her expression. Hajin explains that it's a state where the body's mana recovery speed decreases because all the mana inside has been exhausted. Nayeon quickly snaps back, saying she already knows that. Ignoring her reaction, Hajin tells her she won't be able to walk for a day or two, so she should get back on. After a brief hesitation, she reluctantly climbs onto his back again. As they move, Hajin suddenly asks if she plans to keep using the bow. Caught off guard, Nayeon asks what the hell he's talking about. Hajin tells her that she must have felt it too, that today she unconsciously unleashed her gift. Power that can drastically increase her abilities as long as there is a proper conductor for her magic power. The supreme sword that can massacre hundreds of monsters and djinns with a single slash, a woman unmatched in large-scale all-out war, an overlord of the battlefield, and for the sake of that future she should let it go. But suddenly Nayeon gets angry. Who the hell is he for saying that? Seeing her reaction, Hajin realizes it's still a long way to go. Eventually he drops her off at the portal facility and tells her to find her own way from there. Nayeon asks where he's going, and Hajin simply replies that it's time for dorm curfew. As he walks away, Nayeon yells at him to wait and take her with him. On the next day, people everywhere are talking about the incident with Sven, as Hajin heads to room 303 for something. When he opens the door, Suho greets him, and with him are Kim Horak, Shin Jonghak, Yu Yonha, and Lee Yonghan. Hajin notes that all of the important people have already gathered here. Now we go back to right before the hunting club day. During Hajin's call with Suho, Hajin asks what it's about, and Suho explains that several kids have gone missing, and Cube has entrusted them with investigating the incident. To prevent involving external forces, Cube selected a few trainees based on their grades to carry out the culprit tracking mission. In the background, Nayeon calls out to Suho to come with her. He tells her to wait. Then Suho continues explaining to Hajin that these are all the representatives for the first years. He also mentions that Cube will conduct its own investigation, since it's highly likely the culprit is also a trainee. It's easier to track from the inside that way. Hajin asks what any of this has to do with him. Suho replies that he heard Hajin has good eyes, and also that Nayeon recommended him, which surprises Hajin. Back to the present, Suho thanks him for coming. Hajin thinks that it's his pleasure since he'll gain a lot of SP from this. Suho begins explaining his theory, that the djinn who attacked Nayeon is not the same one as the culprit behind the disappearances. Hearing this, someone suddenly stomps their foot in anger. It's Shin Jonghak, clearly annoyed at how casually Suho mentioned Nayeon, making it sound like they are close. Noticing this, Suho corrects himself and says Ki Nayeon instead. Getting back to the topic, Suho explains that djinns act according to the demons they are contracted with. If Sven failed, then another djinn contracted to the same demon will likely target Nayeon next. With that, Suho asks for everyone's suggestions, or if anyone seems suspicious. Hajin already knows who the culprit is, but he believes that calling him out recklessly would be dangerous. He's been patiently waiting for the right moment for the culprit to expose himself. But unlike in the original work, where 6 victims appeared over 2 months, 3 people have already gone missing in just 2 weeks. At this rate, there will likely be even more victims. He remembers Nayeon thanking him and realizes that he doesn't want to just sit back and watch as danger approaches, all for the sake of waiting for the story to unfold. So he raises his hand. Saying he has someone in mind, he names the academics club leader, Yoon Hyun, calling him suspicious. Suho immediately responds that Yoon Hyun has an alibi, as they already investigated people close to the victims. Hajin questions, what if the victim went to Yoon Hyun on their own accord? Shin argues that if he's suggesting the victim was lured using mere mental magic, then there's no way that could happen. Hajin replies that it would be true if it were regular mental magic, but as he continues speaking, someone interrupts him. It's Yu Yonha. She says it's strange that he's suspecting someone who already has an alibi. And compared to the club leader, the chances of him being a djinn are actually higher. Hearing that, Hajin is completely shocked. In Hajin's memories back when he was still writing the novel, there was a moment he decided the protagonist would need a supporter, a character who would stand by Suho's side. And that's when he came up with the name Yu Yonha. Back to the present, that very same Yu Yonha is now accusing Hajin of being a jinn. Hajin is clearly caught off guard by that. Suho quickly steps in to defend him, pointing out that Hajin also has an alibi since he used a portal around the time of the incident. But Yonha calmly counters, saying she's simply making a guess, just like someone else did. Hajin looks straight at him and tells him to bring it on. He says he'll pierce a hole through his forehead. It's Kim Horak. He says that once Hajin gets beaten, he'll either transform or start talking. At the same time, Shin Jonghak and even the class president are seen smiling. Hajin just stands there with a blank, almost betrayed expression. Then he starts to chuckle. Hajin looks straight at him and tells him to bring it on. He says he'll pierce a hole through his forehead. Before things escalate further, Suho quickly steps in, stopping them and telling Hajin to calm down. Hajin, still irritated, tells them to ask Nayeon, because on that day both of them were. But before he can finish, something suddenly hits him, a basketball. It's Shin, glaring at him in anger, demanding to know why Nayeon's name keeps coming out of his mouth. That only makes Shin angrier. It's Shin, glaring at him in anger, demanding to know why Nayeon's name keeps coming out of his mouth. Hajin fires back, saying they worked together to kill the jinn, while the others were busy playing childish games with their group. That only makes Shin angrier, and the class president quickly steps in to calm things down. Having said his piece, Hajin turns to leave. Meanwhile, Hajin storms out of the room in anger, ignoring Suho calling after him. But suddenly he slips. In that instant, Horak attacks from behind. However, Hajin ducks low, completely dodging the strike. Horak is visibly surprised. At the same time, Hajin pulls out his weapon, saying that Horak clearly needs a beating to understand. Without hesitation, Hajin fires at him midair. Just then, another student suddenly intervenes, striking down between them. Suho steps in calmly, telling them to stop. With Suho's intervention, the fight is forcefully stopped. Meanwhile, Nayeon watches the situation unfold in silence. The aftermath leaves the hallway in ruins. After everything, Hajin simply walks away, leaving the scene behind. Suddenly, his device rings. Yonha is calling him. Elsewhere, Nayeon is also on a call, while the others remain silent after the clash. Moments later, the tension finally settles as everything goes quiet. Hajin leaves alone, heading out with a heavy, lingering tension. As night falls, the scene shifts to a quiet, distant place. Hajin suddenly collapses, clutching his head in pain. Hajin is overwhelmed by confusion and pain, questioning himself. Not only has he fallen into the novel he wrote, he's now clashing emotionally with the very characters he created with care. He wants to see his friends, his family, he wants to go back home. He starts wondering how time is flowing in his original world. If it's moving normally, would he be considered missing? His thoughts drift to his parents. What if they're searching for him? What if they're suffering because of him? Can he even go back? Suddenly, a notification appears. His tenacity has increased. Still, he admits he's glad it increased. The old him might not have had the courage to end his life, but he definitely would have given up on ever returning. He wipes away his tears, slowly getting back to his feet and stands there staring into the distance. Back inside the building, the president asks where Hajin went. Suho replies that he's a bit difficult to approach. Yonha then turns to Horak and asks if he used his gift earlier. Horak hesitates, growing visibly nervous and unable to answer properly. She questions who should really be considered suspicious now. Then suddenly her phone buzzes. It's a message from Yoon Hyun. Yonha reads the message but doesn't respond. And at the same time, we see Yoon Hyun. Yonha replies with a simple sure, covered in blood, smiling. As he looks at her reply, fast forward to the next day. Hajin reflects on how people always say you should keep yourself busy during moments of melancholy, and now he understands why. Between exercising, hunting, and investing in stocks as usual, he barely has any time to think, mainly because of the constant fatigue. Still, something nags at him. He wonders what's going on with Suho and the class president, but quickly tells himself not to bother with it. He's fine. Then another thought hits him. What exactly is he doing with his own characters? He tells himself to stop wasting time on useless things and focus on finding a way back home. Right then, Nayeon arrives. Hajin asks if it's really okay for her to already be back at school, and she casually replies that there's nothing for her to do at home anyway. Suho immediately offers her a hand to help, but Nayeon refuses, saying she can move on her own. Seeing this, Shin gets visibly irritated at Suho for trying to help her. And when Shin gets worked up over Nayeon, Yonha also ends up getting annoyed. At that moment, the instructor walks in and tells everyone to take their seats. He announces that midterms are just a week away. The written exams will come first, followed immediately by the practical exams. The practical will be evaluated in two categories: duels between trainees and monster battles against a phantom beast summoned by a mage. Both will be far more difficult than regular lessons, so everyone is told to devote themselves fully. Hajin notes that the written exams will be easy. The real problem is the duels. Each trainee is given 3 nomination tickets, allowing them to choose an opponent they want to duel. At first glance, it seems like high-ranking trainees could abuse this by targeting weaker ones for easy points, but Cube has already implemented a countermeasure. the compensation point system. For example, even if the number 1 ranked trainee defeats the lowest ranked trainee, the points they gain are reduced based on the rank difference, and they may even receive negative points. But of course, there are always exceptions. Some people completely ignore the system and use their tickets on people they simply don't like just to beat them down. And there's something else bothering Hajin. Rachel is sitting way too close to him. She doesn't even talk to him, yet she keeps lingering around. She used to always sit alone at the back, quietly studying. Now she's right next to him. He wonders what she's doing and whether she's trying to peek at his notes. We then see Hajin writing 2 names in his notebook. Yu Okja and Kim Junhyuk. Rachel notices and gets curious, wondering what he's writing. Later, Hajin sends a message to Yu Yonha. Yoon Hyun messages. Yonha heads to the study room to meet Hajin. Inside the study room, someone notices the door opening. Hajin is already in the study room, casually waiting. As she enters, Hyun greets her with a smile. She looks around and notes that no other club members are there. Hyun casually replies that they'll arrive soon. Then she notices a scented candle. Hyun explains that it helps improve focus, especially since they'll be studying later. He then brings up something else. He heard that Yonha joined the demonic human search team. He mentions that he's a second-year representative for it, but so far they've made no progress. He asks if her group has found anything yet, maybe even a list of suspects. She says that someone accused him, Yoon Hyun, of being a demonic human. Her mind starts to relax unnaturally. Her thoughts begin to dull, a sense of calm taking over. It's clear he's using some kind of psychological magic. Hyun then asks if that person had any evidence. She says that someone accused him, Yoon Hyun, of being a demonic human. As Yonha is about to reply, "Of course not," she pauses. Sensing it, Hyun quickly tries to correct himself, saying he misspoke, that he meant whether the claim was based on anything. But now Yonha is suspicious. She immediately reaches for her weapon, stating that innocent people don't ask for evidence when accused of a crime. Pulling out her whip, she demands that he reveal his true identity. But now Yonha is suspicious. In response, a black aura begins to rise around Hyun as he stares at her. He calmly tells her there's still time for her turn. Then we cut to Cube's second-year dorm. She tries to calm herself and think of a way to call for help. Yonha wakes up tied to a chair, but Hyun notices. Looking around, she quickly realizes where she is, and that this is all Hyun's doing. She tries to calm herself and think of a way to call for help, struggling as she silently prays for anyone to save her. At that moment, everything clicks. Yoon Hyun is the culprit behind the disappearances, a demonic human. And Hajin wasn't talking nonsense. But Hyun notices. He approaches her and tells her she shouldn't do that. She tries to calm herself and think of a way to call for help, struggling. Fear starts to creep in. She realizes the situation is far more dangerous than she thought. He desperately tries to call for help. Hajin's watch suddenly starts blinking. He receives a message from Yonha. Seeing it, he frowns slightly, confused, wondering what it means. Hyun takes Yonha's smartwatch and calmly tells her that there's no way any of her friends would understand a random, gibberish message sent in the middle of the night. He glances at it and notices that she messaged Hajin. Curious, he asks if this is the quick-witted guy who suspected him of being a jinn, then casually adds that he'll kill him later as well. Yonha immediately fires back, yelling that if he seriously thinks he can get away with all of this, then he's mistaken. The search team has probably already noticed something and is making their move. He says he'll be leaving Cube as soon as everything is finished. Hyun steps closer to her, staring at her face, and says that he loves that expression. Lady Lilith wants to see that face and filled with fear. Meanwhile, Hajin looks at the message and wonders if it was sent by mistake. But then he starts analyzing it. Breaking it down, he realizes it's actually an abbreviation, the initials for the word save in Korean. His expression immediately hardens. He quickly pulls out the Book of Truth and asks for Yonha's location. And the moment he sees the answer, he's shocked. Back with Yonha, she's struggling as a voice echoes inside her head, trying to pull her deeper. It tells her that she's been lonely for a long time, pretending to understand her, trying to make her lower her guard. But something feels off. Hyun notices her expression and is visibly surprised. He reassures her not to be afraid, saying that Lady Lilith gave him permission just for today. She wants her too. Even so, Yonha continues struggling, trying to break free. But Hyun tells her it's useless. Even if she manages to loosen the restraints, there's no escaping in front of Lady Lilith's magic power. Before he can finish, a gunshot rings out. Hyun is hit straight in the head. Yonha's eyes widen in shock. Hyun screams in pain, and then she hears a voice. Hajin, he coldly remarks, asking her to look at what happened after doubting someone she should have trusted. Hyun, furious, demands to know who he is. Hajin tells him not to even think about recovering, the bullet was specially made. Unless he removes it surgically, there's no coming back from that. Enraged, Hyun curses under his breath as killing intent surges. Hyun shouts in rage, demanding Hajin to show himself. Suddenly, another attack cuts through the air, rushing toward Yonha. The attack hits. Hyun is slammed back, clutching his wound as he's thrown across the room. Despite the damage, Hyun keeps screaming, demanding Hajin to come out. Hajin calmly replies that he's far away from there. Even while injured, Hyun gathers mana and fires back in fury. But the attacks miss completely, shooting off into the distance. The shots travel far, revealing Hajin's actual position in the distance. Hajin, positioned on a distant tree, aiming from an extreme range with his Desert Eagle in sniper rifle form. His eyes are locked on target, For him, long-range sniping is the safest option. Keeping his aim steady, Hajin tells Yonha that he'll be using all the bullets she gave him today, and that if she has a conscience, she better repay him with something even better later. Hyun desperately tries to escape, but Hajin shoots him again, this time in the back. Hyun's body trembles as Hajin keeps him in his sights. Then Hajin lowers his weapon slightly and speaks to Yonha. He says he saw something he probably shouldn't have and asks if she's alright. Yonha quietly replies that she is. Hajin tells her to get some rest, the search team will arrive soon. Yonha realizes who saved her, and softly calls out to Hajin. She softly answers, okay. And as her consciousness fades, she gives Hajin a heartfelt. Yonha slowly wakes up in the hospital. The moment she opens her eyes, she asks him what he's doing there. Suho is sitting right beside her. Suho immediately asks if she's feeling any pain, explaining that the doctor said there's nothing wrong with her body. Hearing that, Yonha suddenly freaks out. She quickly sits up and asks him again, what is he doing here? Suho calmly explains that they've been taking turns looking after her, him, Naeun, Jonghak, and Horak. Confused, she asks why. Suho tells her it's because they are partially responsible for what happened. As members of the same search team, they should have been more careful, but instead they were too focused on other things. And for that, he apologizes. Yonha looks at him and tells him that he probably gets told this a lot, that he's stubborn. Suho looks confused by that. Watching him, Yonha starts thinking. At first, she believes Suho was just a talented guy, but now she wonders if she misunderstood him. And that thought leads her back to something else, her argument with Hajin. She asks Suho if that person came. Suho asks who she means. But instead of answering, Yonha suddenly turns away and says it's nothing. She just quietly looks up at the blue sky. She sends a message to Hajin, a simple thank you and a promise that she'll repay him. And with that, Hajin receives a massive reward, tons of SP, along with an increase in mastery for his Deadeye skill. Hajin notes that this is the most SP he's ever gained from a single action. But considering he just resolved one of the main arcs, it makes sense. Even if it wasn't entirely a bonus, since he had to invest quite a bit to pull off that long-range snipe. Still, it's more than worth it. After all, he managed to save you, Yonha. Right then, Park Soo-hyuk shows up, calling out to Hajin. He says he was surprised to get a sudden call from him and asks if something's wrong. Before Hajin can even respond, Soo-hyuk suddenly drops to his knees, thinking Hajin called him to cancel their contract and desperately begs him to reconsider. Hajin quickly tells him to calm down, it's nothing like that. Instead, he pulls out a briefcase and tells him he wants to invest in GSH Entertainment. Hearing that, Soo-hyuk freezes, completely shocked. The wild ginseng Hajin had listed on Violet Banquet sold for a staggering 700 million won. Out of that, he already invested 250 million into Packhorse Masters, and now he's putting another 150 million into GSH Entertainment, believing its growth potential is just as certain. Seeing that amount, Soo-hyuk is overwhelmed, saying he can't possibly accept such a large investment. But Hajin tells him to just take it, and also to use it to buy him a magic pouch and an HUV. Then Hajin casually asks his age. Soo-hyuk replies that he's 29. Hajin immediately tells him to speak casually since he's older. That completely throws Soo-hyuk off. He insists he can't talk casually to an investor, but Hajin bluntly tells him that if he keeps acting like that, he'll cancel the deal. Hearing that, Soo-hyuk instantly switches to a more casual tone. As they leave together, Hajin asks him to stop by a convenience store. There, Hajin picks up a lottery ticket and starts scratching it. Confused, Soo-hyuk asks why he's suddenly doing that. Hajin casually replies that he can't do it without a guardian. Then, he finishes scratching it. Soo-hyuk asks how much it's worth. Hajin answers casually 2 billion won. Soo-hyuk completely loses it. And just like that, Hajin hands the ticket over to him as well, telling him to invest it and send back an edited contract. Soo-hyuk quickly tucks the ticket away, gripping it tightly. Hajin asks what he's doing. Soo-hyuk replies that someone might steal it. Later that evening, in an abandoned warehouse, a small child rises from the shadows. He reports to his boss that they've begun making their move. Packhorse Masters has been listed and he asks what they should do next. The boss calmly replies they'll take what they need and leave the rest. But the child adds that something strange is happening. Someone has been aggressively buying Packhorse Masters stocks. First 3 million, then 10 million, and suddenly 250 million. He finds it suspicious, far too much money to invest in a guild that doesn't even have a proper foundation yet. The boss tells him to ignore it and focus on their objective. She then asks if there's anything else. The child mentions that several interesting pages have opened on Violet Banquet, Relic Search Party, Jonggak Bosentang, and Truth Agency. He says that out of all of them, Truth Agency feels the most suspicious. He asks if they should submit a request. Maybe they could use it to track that mysterious investor. Hearing that, the boss suddenly snaps and calls out his name, Drew. He immediately backs down, saying he was just joking. He then adds one more update. Cube's midterms are starting tomorrow. The current hot topics are Rank 1 and 2, Kim Soo-ho and Shin Jonghak. Some members are planning to infiltrate. He asks if she'll participate as well. She answers yes. And finally, we see her clearly. A new figure enters the stage. She quietly says she hopes to find someone interesting and useful there. Fast forward as time flies by, the practical week of the midterms finally begins. We see a trainee full of excitement happily meeting her parents. During this practical week, Cube opens its doors to hero employment agencies, guilds, the association, and even the families of trainees. The massive crowd gathered from all over the world makes the entire place feel like a festival. We see a trainee full of excitement, happily meeting her parents. Meanwhile, Hajin is observing everything through a drone. Reporters are everywhere covering the event, while various guilds prepare to send offers to the top trainees. He notes that there isn't much action yet, so he decides to wait a bit longer. We also learn that he got these drones from Suhyuk, and by setting them up all over Cube, he's increasing his chances of. Then suddenly, he bumps shoulders with someone. He turns back to apologize and freezes. It's the boss of the chameleon troop. Hajin is completely shocked. He had almost forgotten that she would also show up during the practical exams. Without realizing it, he keeps staring at her. And then it hits him, he's been locking eyes with her for way too long. Trying to recover, he scrambles to say anything to avoid looking suspicious, and ends up blurting out that she's really pretty. Both of them go silent. Deadpan expressions. She doesn't respond at all and simply walks past him. As she leaves, she contacts Drew. When he asks what's wrong, she tells him that the person she just passed by was able to see through the perception-blocking effect of Siren's necklace. And because of that, she orders him to investigate Hajin. Hajin, on the other hand, recalls that it's not just heroes here scouting trainees. The chameleon troop is here too. Their original objective is to scout either Kim Suho or Shin Jonghak. But since Suho doesn't align with their beliefs, they rule him out and shift their attention to Shin Jonghak. That's how the story is supposed to go. Their infiltration alone isn't a problem. But if the story changes and they end up clashing with the exam site's security heroes, it won't end with just 1 or 2 casualties. Suddenly, a loud voice cuts through the area. Someone shouts that there's nothing suspicious. Another person scolds him, telling him to stop messing around and search properly. If someone slips past Cube's security during practical week, it would be a serious issue. But he casually replies, then they'll just eliminate them before they become a problem. These two turn out to be high-grade heroes. Oh Junhyuk, rank 1737, a 7th grade hero, and Seok Yeonji, rank 2000, also a 7th grade hero. As they continue arguing, Junhyuk even telling her to just go eat pizza, a mysterious figure walks behind them. He comments on Hajin, clearly intrigued. He's surprised that Hajin managed to see through the perception-blocking ability of Siren's necklace and spot their boss. For the first time, something here catches his interest. Up until now, everyone has been so weak that he was practically dying of boredom. He asks Drew what kind of person Hajin is, saying he wants to go first and fight him. Drew, annoyed, thinks he's just a muscle-brained idiot. He tells him to stay put. There's no need to rush, they'll be able to judge Hajin soon enough anyway. After all, the duels are about to begin. At the arena, the announcer declares that the first match is about to start. This duel was initiated using a nomination ticket. And stepping into the arena is Hajin. Right then someone calls out to him, it's Yonha. She asks if he's heading to the arena and Hajin confirms that he's up first. Hearing that, Yonha immediately calls her assistant and hands Hajin 100 top-grade bullets. He won't be able to use them during the test itself, but he can use them however he wants otherwise, and if he needs more, he just has to tell her. She also tells him that despite everyone asking, she hasn't revealed that he was the one who provided support during the Jin incident. Hajin asks her to keep it that way, saying things would get complicated if it got out that he was the one who shot Yoon Hyun. Yonha nods, saying she understands that he's hiding his strength for some reason, but points out that it might make it difficult for him to pass the practical exam like that. Hajin looks confused. Then Yonha asks, does he even know who his opponent is? Cut to the waiting room. We see someone intensely warming up. It's Kim Horak, and with a determined expression he declares that he's going to crush Hajin. Back at the chameleon troop, Drew reports to his captain that he couldn't find anything unusual. Then how was he able to see through a perception-blocking item and notice her? Drew admits that he doesn't know either. At that moment, a large figure emerges from the bushes and approaches them. He greets the captain, saying it's been a while. It's Cheok Yoonjiang. She immediately points out that he's late and asks if he wandered off somewhere else. He casually replies that he simply followed orders to search for talent and came straight here. She asks if he found anyone. He answers bluntly, no one. Drew then mentions that this year's first years are said to be exceptional, suggesting he should check them instead. He adds that a first-year named Kim Hajin is about to start his match. Hearing that, Yoonjiang recalls, that's the guy who saw through their captain's perception-blocking item. Cut to Cube's practical exam arena. The two high-grade heroes, Junhyuk and Yeonji, are casually eating pizza while watching the matches, still arguing as usual. Junhyuk comments that the pizza has gotten better lately, even mentioning that his son likes it. Hearing that, Yeonji smiles and responds, is that so? Then suddenly, she notices someone sitting across from them. The person has been staring in their direction, smiling. She wonders what his deal is. Junhyuk casually brushes it off, saying maybe he's just a fan. Right then, Horak steps into the arena. Junhyuk notes that while he might not be in the top 6, he's still pretty decent. Yeonji checks his opponent. Rank 934, Kim Hajin. Hajin casually tells Horak that he looks a bit fierce and suggests he take it easy. That only pisses Horak off. Horak's specialty is his Kai armor. He uses the mana within his body to create an invisible layer of enhanced protection. Training bullets won't even scratch him. In fact, opponents should be grateful if they don't get torn apart when he gets close. So the key is simple, don't let him get close. The announcer signals the start of the match. The moment it begins, Horak charges straight at Hajin. In response, Hajin activates bullet time. Everything slows down. He moves out of the way, dodging with precision. His control over bullet time has improved. He can now maintain it for up to a full minute. Hajin begins analyzing the attack in slow motion. Horak can still keep up. Suddenly, Horak slams his fist into the ground. The impact sends Hajin airborne. Everything slows down. He moves out of the way, dodging with precision. Suddenly, Horak slams his fist into the ground. The impact sends Hajin airborne. Hearing the noise, Horak grows more agitated. Enraged, Horak slams the ground again, shaking the entire arena. But Hajin dodges cleanly, leaping backward to create distance. Horak smirks. If Hajin thinks his Kai armor is that weak, he casually throws a punch to deflect the bullet. But the moment his fist makes contact, a heavy impact crashes into his shoulder. He stumbles, his expression shifts, nervous. The audience erupts in shock. The bullet pierced through his Kai armor. Murmurs spread across the stands. People start questioning who Hajin even is. The bullet pierced through his Kai armor. Murmurs spread across the stands. People start questioning who Hajin even is because something like this shouldn't be possible. Hajin fires again. Horak tries to block it, but Hajin already knows. Because these aren't normal bullets, they're infused with Hajin's stigma. They're infused with Hajin's stigma and carry anti-demon properties. Enraged, Horak slams the ground again, shaking the entire arena. But Hajin dodges cleanly, leaping backward to create distance. Then suddenly Hajin throws a knife at him. He even tells him to be careful. But in the next instant, Hajin raises his gun and fires. Horak collapses to the ground. Hajin walks forward, gun aimed straight at him. The entire arena goes silent. Everyone watches stunned. As Hajin prepares to pull the trigger, Horak struggles to stand, clearly shaken, while the entire arena watches in anticipation and shock. Junhyuk wonders out loud if Hajin ran out of bullets, while Yonji comments that Horak looks completely exhausted. Horak forcing himself back up, staring at Hajin intensely, and Hajin simply stares at him with a blank expression. Then suddenly Hajin smiles and drops his weapon. He surrenders. The entire arena falls silent. Everyone is left stunned, unable to process what just happened. The announcer declares the end of the duel. The winner is Kim Horak. Horak, however, is furious. Being handed a win like this only makes it worse. Meanwhile, the audience starts murmuring. People are surprised that Horak is still standing after being hit by what looked like real bullets, wondering if it's because of his fighter's physique. Junhyuk then asks Yonji for her thoughts. She calmly analyzes the match. Kim Hajin performed well while Kim Horak was too premature. Instead of rushing in with Kai armor, which comes with a heavy cost, he should have taken his time and dominated the fight step by step. By trying to do too much too quickly, he ended up embarrassing himself. But even so, she finds Hajin far more interesting. His firing speed is unbelievable, and his dynamic visual acuity allows him to track even a martial artist's movements. However, at a certain point when Horak began to slow down, Hajin also slowed down. Which raises a question. Does he have a special gift that enhances his physical abilities? On top of that, he was using bullets infused with mana. Junhyuk follows up, asking if she's saying that the density of those compressed magic bullets was strong enough to break through Kai armor as a mere cadet. Yonji replies that they still don't know what kind of gift Kim Hajin has. But one thing is certain, his potential could very well be the greatest of all time. Around them, the crowd is still buzzing. Guilds and associations immediately begin contacting their superiors after witnessing the match. And because of that, Yonji decides to remember his name. Junhyuk then casually notes that the next duel is about to begin. Switching over to Yoonjeong, he bluntly says he doesn't like Kim Hajin. To him, Hajin is just a small guy who fights from a distance, and he doesn't understand why their captain told him to check him out. Drew asks if he didn't see it. Hajin possesses the power of demon slaying. Yoonjeong brushes it off, saying that has nothing to do with strength. Drew calls him out, saying he just dislikes Hajin because he's a ranged fighter. Yoonjeong chuckles and agrees. To him, a real duel requires something else: fatal effort, fatal intent, a killing will that pierces straight into the opponent's heart. Drew tells him to go look for someone with that kind of presence instead, then asks if he checked out Suho or Jonghak. Yoonjeong replies that both of them are impressive. Shin Jonghak's destructive style, targeting vital points instantly without hesitation, is something he likes, especially how he overwhelms those who rely too much on defense. Drew sighs, saying that if Yoonjeong likes someone, it probably says a lot about their personality. Then he asks about Kim Suho. Yoonjeong calls him unique. Drew asks what he means. Yoonjeong explains that Suho uses a sword dance style, clearly something he trained in for a long time. But even then, it feels like he's hiding something. Drew wonders if that means the number one at Cube isn't showing his true strength. Yoonjeong shrugs. Neither Suho nor Jonghak are at a level that makes him want to fight them immediately. Then Drew asks what about Kim Hajin? Yoonjeong immediately gets annoyed, asking if he's seriously including that guy too. Drew replies that of course he is. The power of demon slaying is exactly what their captain is looking for, but Yoonjeong still refuses. He just doesn't like him. At that moment, a voice calls out from behind the bushes. A security guard approaches, asking if anyone is there. He tells Yoonjeong to leave immediately. The forest is off limits. Yoonjeong looks irritated. The guard repeats himself, and in the next instant, Yoonjeong flicks his finger against the guard's forehead. A sharp sound echoes, the guard collapses. Drew asks whether he just killed someone. Yongjiang casually replies he did. Drew sighs and tells him that he's definitely dead to the captain now, but Yongjiang just tells him to keep it a secret. Later that evening, their captain stands on top of a building overlooking the city. A memory flashes a rainy day. A grave, a voice filled with grief, promising to find the traitor no matter what. She swears revenge, no matter what it takes. Back in the present, she grips the railing tightly. Then contacts Drew. She gives a direct order, investigate Kim Suho, Shin Jonghak, and Kim Hajin. Drew asks what the priority is. She answers without hesitation. The power of demon slaying can break demonic bodies. Kim Hajin is the highest priority. Drew hesitates, pointing out that they don't have much information on him, but she doesn't care, because tomorrow she'll meet him personally. Now fast forward to the second day of midterms at the first arena. People in the stands immediately notice scouts from major guilds like Blade Guild and Holy Grace of God. The crowd is buzzing with excitement. These are duels between top-ranked Cube cadets. Rank 1 Kim Suho versus Rank 6 Yu Yona, and Rank 3 Rachel versus Rank 4 Ki Naeun. The first match begins Naeun versus Rachel. Hajin casually thanks the extras around him for explaining the situation, already knowing how this match plays out. Naeun confidently points her bow toward the sky, declaring that today they'll be swapping ranks. The announcer declares the start of the first-year 8th match. Naeun confidently points her bow toward the sky. She fires. The arrow splits into a volley, raining down like a storm toward Rachel. But Rachel moves cleanly, dodging most of them effortlessly, and deflecting the one that actually threatens her. Her entire attack shut down, and before she can react, Rachel closes the distance. Meanwhile, in the stands, the boss approaches Hajin. She walks up and sits right beside him. For a moment, they just stare at each other. A black-level criminal wanted by the Hero Association, the captain of the infamous Chameleon Troupe, a woman with countless identities, and in this world the only person who knows her real name is Hajin. But suddenly a soda spills. Hajin freezes, starting to sweat. The tension breaks in the most absurd way possible. Meanwhile, the match concludes. Rachel defeats Naeun. The boss calmly cleans herself using a handkerchief, one that Hajin hands to her. She thanks him, then casually brings up that she saw his duel with Kim Horak. She shows him a card, introducing herself as this kind of person, and asks if the ability he showed in the duel was his gift. Hajin looks at the card. He immediately realizes it's not her real name, just one of her many identities. He asks if she's from a guild, pointing out that early contact with cadets is illegal. She tries to take the card back, but Hajin holds onto it. He says he watched her duel, saying he never said he wouldn't take it. Hajin watches her go, confused. There's no reason for her to approach him at this point in the story, so why did she come to him? Meanwhile, Kim Suho's match also concludes. As expected, he wins. By the end of the day, everyone is talking about the duels, especially Naeun's loss. It's the first time a Korean prospect lost to a foreigner like Rachel. Hajin calls back his drone, wondering if it picked up anything useful. He decides to check it once he gets back to the dorm, but then he hears something soft sobbing. He follows the sound and finds Naeun hiding in a bush crying. Hajin immediately recognizes this scene. In the original story, this is where Suho comforts her after her defeat. And from that moment, Naeun starts developing feelings for him. Encouragement like work harder or let's do our best together. Those kinds of words won't help her right now. But not for Kim Suho. He never tells anyone to give up. And Naeun won't give up on her bow because of him. And then Hajin gets an idea. A moment later, Naeun's smartwatch vibrates. He says he watched her duel. Naeun frowns, wondering what he wants. Then more messages come in. He tells her a sword suits her better than a bow, just like he said before, and that he recommends she change her course. Naeun's face goes completely blank. Suho walks out of the arena, looking around for her. He spots the bush and calls out, saying he's been looking for her. Naeun explodes, furious. She shouts that she's going to kill Hajin. The first semester midterm practical duel comes to an end. Back in the dorms, Hajin reviews the drone footage. On the screen, he sees Chiok Yoonjiyoung killing the guard brutally. Hajin watches in silence, calling it exactly what it is. Brutal. He starts wondering, is that guy part of the Chameleon Troupe as well? Killing without hesitation, killing simply because he feels like it for his own pleasure. In this world, there are people capable of doing things like that. And with the advancement of science and magic, it's become even easier to cross that line. There are also beings who operate outside the system, entirely demi-humans who don't follow laws or rules. They're still human, yet they reject heroes altogether. They aren't just criminals because they possess transcendental strength. Just like heroes, they are villains. Hajin realizes something important. He can't just focus on the villains that appear in the original novel anymore. The story has already changed, and with it, the variables have increased. There's no telling when or what kind of villain will appear next. Now we move to the midterms Practical Monster Battle Examination Center. An instructor steps forward and introduces herself as Jin Juwa, the mage in charge of supervising the exam. Before starting, she explains how the test will work. This arena is where cadets will face monsters summoned by a mage. Unlike training, this test is far more dangerous. The The summoned monsters behave exactly like real ones, and even if the summon is cancelled, they won't disappear immediately. Which means if a cadet refuses to surrender out of pride, their life could be in danger. So she strongly advises everyone to yield if things get too difficult. Evaluation will be based on two things: how long they can endure and how calmly they respond. With that, she wishes them luck. She calls forward Team 1. As they step into the arena, she instructs the others to observe carefully. Even if it's not their turn, they should analyze the fights. Think about how each cadet handled the monster, and consider whether there was a better approach. They'll be expected to write a report later. Just as she's about to begin, she hears a noise. She immediately tells everyone to turn off their smartwatches, and reminds them that their reports will also affect their written exam scores. Then the exam begins. The first monster is summoned. For Team 1, Cadet Heizuki, an advanced school. It lunges at her and she barely manages to defend herself, as the observing students quickly take notes. Next is Team 2. Cadet Lee Yohan steps up. He faces a massive serpent and uses magic liberation to deliver a clean, decisive strike. After that, a rain of arrows falls. Nayeon finishes her tests smoothly. One after another, cadets complete their exams, including Yu Yonha, who clears hers without much trouble. Finally, it is Team 10. Cadet Kim Hajin, the summoned monster Crom Wolf. Hajin immediately fires at it, then moves behind a rock for cover. He calmly thinks that if things continue like this, the fight should end without any issues. But then a loud noise echoes, everyone hears it. Hajin pauses, wondering what's going on this time. Outside, Oh Junhyuk, who's on patrol, hears the disturbance and asks if something happened at the exam hall. Seok Yeonji immediately snaps at him, telling him to stay focused. One of the security personnel was killed yesterday, and the entire area is under high alert. Junhyuk acknowledges it and asks if they've located the source of the tremor. Yeonji replies that they suspect it's coming from the ocean floor in his direction, but they don't have an exact location yet. Junhyuk mutters that he hopes it's nothing serious. Then he hears movement in the bushes. He turns, and there stands Cheok Yoonjeong. Yoonjeong casually remarks that there's someone here. Junhyuk immediately tells him this area is off-limits and asks if he got lost, but Yoonjeong fires back, "Then why are you here?" Junhyuk replies that he's not an outsider. He starts preparing for a fight, saying that's enough talking. If Junhyuk doesn't want to get beaten, he should get out of the way. And then a massive tremor hits. The ground shakes violently. Water begins to rise. Both of them turn and see it, a gigantic monster emerging from a spiraling water tornado. Back at the exam center, an emergency announcement rings out. All cadets are ordered to evacuate immediately. The exam has been suspended due to an external incident. Jin Jua tells Hajin to stop the test and evacuate as well. Hajin looks around, confused, wondering what the hell is going on. And outside the building, a mysterious figure stands in the distance, watching everything unfold. Back at the training center, Hajin notices something is off. The summoned monsters aren't being cancelled. He tries calling out to someone, but there's no response. That's when it clicks, something is wrong. He starts wondering whether Jin mixed in with the dispatch mages. It's not Jin Jua. The story change alert didn't appear, and there were no detected changes among the people inside the exam building. Which can only mean one thing: Hajin realizes it. Right then, we see someone appear and approach Rachel, casually greeting her like it's been a long time. Rachel is visibly surprised upon seeing him. The man introduces himself, Sir Alex Lancaster, and Hajin immediately understands. This is something outside the story he knows. Rachel asks Lancaster where he's been ever since the London incident 5 years ago. And more importantly, what happened to him. Just by looking at him, she realizes the truth. He sold his soul. She demands to know why someone like him, a former Imperial Guard captain, would do something like that. But Lancaster calmly corrects her. She's mistaken. He didn't sell his soul. A new lord simply took it. A soul that had been betrayed by the very country he devoted his entire life to. Hearing that, Rachel immediately draws her sword. There's no point in talking anymore. She declares that she'll apprehend him. She rushes forward and slashes, but her blade passes straight through him. Her eyes widen. Lancaster tells her it's unfortunate, but that isn't his real body. This is just him having a bit of fun. Outside, everything has already descended into chaos. With monsters invading, including the Amagi, no one will be paying attention to what's happening here. The entire exam building is in pandemonium. No one is coming to help her. He then asks, isn't this situation different from the usual United Kingdom? A country that prioritizes protecting the imperial family, while hundreds of others die without anyone even noticing. We see a flashback. Lancaster holding someone, crying, calling that place damned. Then suddenly he hears something. He sighs slightly, saying he'd love to continue this conversation, but his time is up. He tells her goodbye and disappears. Rachel calls out his name, trying to stop him. But from the shadows, an assassin emerges. Without hesitation, it attacks. Rachel barely manages to block the strike. She quickly realizes this opponent is strong. The attacks keep coming, forcing her backward. She struggles to defend as the relentless assault overwhelms her, leaving cuts and damage across her body. At this rate, she can't keep fighting head-on. She needs to take a risk and wait for an opening. But before she can act, the assassin strikes her hand. Her sword is knocked away, it goes flying. Now unarmed, she falls to the ground. Still, she doesn't give up. Using a mana thread, she tries to pull her sword back toward her. The assassin moves in to finish it, right as her sword flies back toward him. But suddenly, the wall behind them explodes. Rachel is left stunned, and through the debris Hajin appears. The assassin immediately shifts targets and rushes toward him, but Hajin reacts instantly. He transforms his Desert Eagle into a shotgun and fires straight at the assassin. After that shot, the assassin completely disappears. Hajin pauses for a moment, wondering if it really ended in a single hit. But then again, it makes sense. That attack consumed 250 SP. Seeing him, Rachel realizes he's a cadet from her class. Hajin walks up to her and offers his hand, asking if she's okay even though it's obvious that she isn't, noticing her condition. He takes out some bandages, carefully cleaning the blood and wrapping her wounds. He casually says that if he had arrived any later, she might not have been able to wield a sword again. Then as he notices the blood, something clicks. He just obtained a Q ranker's blood unexpectedly. Rachel thanks him. Hajin simply tells her not to worry about it. Right then, the instructor arrives and urgently asks if either of them is hurt anywhere. She tells them to hold on, they're coming to rescue them immediately. At the same time, one of the assistants reports to the head mage that 2 cadets in a nearby exam hall are severely injured. Hearing that, she's shocked, wondering who on earth could have done something like this. Now we cut back to Junhyuk. Seok Yeonji runs up to him as he's sitting by the ocean. She asks what happened. She heard that an Imugi appeared. Junhyuk casually replies that she took her time getting there, it's already been chased away. She asks if he was the one who handled it, but he shakes his head. It was an intruder. He doesn't know who exactly attacked it, but the Imugi was furious, and yet that person managed to drive it away using pure brute force. Whoever it was incredibly strong. Yeonji finds that hard to believe. Junhyuk admits that he doesn't fully believe it either, but given the situation, it's highly likely that the same person is responsible for the murder at the police station, which means they need to issue a search. With an unknown intruder appearing and a high-ranking monster showing up in the middle of midterms, this year's exams are essentially ruined. There's no way Cube's executives will avoid being held accountable for this. And just like that, the Cube monster incident spreads across the world, becoming a major issue. The midterms are postponed as manpower is redirected toward damage control and investigation. Soon after, both exams and classes are completely cancelled. Cadets are suddenly given an unprecedented 10-day holiday. While many of them celebrate, the instructor scolds them, asking how they can act like this when fellow cadets were injured. He tells them to stop thinking nonsense and return to their dorms. Meanwhile, Hajin looks at his laptop and finally, a story change notification appears. It's about Alex Lancaster. Hajin recalls that Lancaster was originally a character tied to the UK, one he himself created. His goal was to conquer the nations of the UK, but now he's become much stronger than in the original story, and he's appeared much earlier than expected. Hajin clicks his tongue internally. If he had known things would turn out like this, he would have created more king-level characters. Still, it's not entirely bad. After all, he managed to obtain Rachel's blood. Suddenly, someone elbows him in the head. It's Nayeon and she looks pissed. She mocks him, asking what he's staring at, which only annoys Hajin. The class president notices them and comments that they're fighting again, but Suho casually remarks that they actually seem friendlier than before. Later, Nayeon heads back to her dorm. As she walks in, she mutters that Hajin is a loser for picking fights when he can't even follow through. Then her smartwatch buzzes. It's her report from the previous test. She opens it and notices that Suho wrote part of it. Suho's evaluation praises her. He writes that she seemed burdened by many things, that both internal and external factors have chipped away at her confidence. But despite that, she's an exceptionally talented cadet. He describes her unwavering will, even when facing a strong opponent like Kayanlima. Through hard work and talent, she was able to deliver excellent results. Some people might think she lacks talent, but in reality, what she lacks is confidence. And if she continues forward believing in herself the way she did today, he's certain she can become the best hero. After reading it, Nayeon gets flustered, calling it embarrassing as she starts blushing slightly. Still, she stubbornly thinks that no matter what anyone says, she's going to keep using the bow. Then another appraisal arrives. This one is anonymous. She doesn't know who sent it, but it's unusually long, which makes her curious. As she starts reading, her expression slowly changes, from curiosity to irritation, to full-blown anger, and then she screams, loud enough to be heard outside her dorm, startling Heizuki. Nayeon yells at the top of her lungs that she won't forgive whoever wrote this. Back at Hajin's dorm room, he feeds the seed with the blood he obtained from Rachel. He watches as the seed absorbs it instantly. The Evangel seed he obtained from Mount Gari. Once fed with blood, it gives birth to Evangel the witch. And since this blood belongs to Rachel, someone kind, he hopes that what emerges won't be anything villainous. He gently caresses the seed, telling it to grow quickly and help him out. But suddenly his wrist begins to glow. Hajin freezes. A second stigma is being engraved onto him. Pain surges through his body and his screams echo out. The next morning, Hajin is sitting in a car heading somewhere into the city. Suhyuk notices something off and asks him what's wrong. Hajin brushes it off, saying it's nothing, he's just a bit tired. Then he changes the subject, asking if business has been going well. Suhyuk immediately lights up, saying that ever since he got the HUV, things have improved a lot. Sales are easier, there are more customers, and he doesn't have to exhaust himself walking around like before. Overwhelmed, he starts tearing up, thanking Hajin. Seeing that, Hajin quickly thinks of changing the topic. As they arrive at their destination, they notice a crowd gathered at the entrance. Hajin wonders if they are from a guild. People nearby are murmuring in surprise. It's the essence of the Stray Guild. Hajin spots Yonha among them, and wonders if she came for field exploration with her guild. At that moment, Yonha turns and notices him too. She walks over, knocks on his car window, and asks what he's doing here. Hajin casually replies that he's here to make money. She asks if he's alone. He answers that he's with his agent Park Soo-hyuk. Soo-hyuk, hearing this exchange, is shocked to realize that Hajin is connected to Essence of the Strait. Yonha briefly looks him over, and Hajin can't help but think how strange this pairing is, Yonha and Soo-hyuk. Originally, Soo-hyuk was supposed to be Kim Soo-ho's agent. In the original story, Yonha learned about Soo-ho signing with him and ended up investing heavily into SH Entertainment. That decision turned into a huge success, paving the way for both Yonha and Soo-hyuk. But now things are different. Without Kim Soo-ho involved, there's no guarantee Yonha will invest in SH Entertainment. In the worst-case scenario, Hajin might end up blocking Soo-hyuk's bright future. Then suddenly, Yonha simply says, "I see." And without hesitation, she opens the door and gets into Hajin's car. She says that if he's here to hunt, she'll come along. Then asks if that's okay with him. Hajin is completely caught off guard. Fast forward, the car enters the field. Inside, both of them sit in silence. Hajin wonders what Yonha is thinking. Then she suddenly calls out to him, asking if he has any plans for the future. Hajin is confused, asking what she suddenly means. She clarifies what does he plan to do after graduation. Hajin shrugs it off, saying it's too far away to think about. But Yonha points out that midterms are already over and in their third year. They won't even be in Cube anymore due to apprenticeships. Hajin realizes they'll be busy working as trainee heroes. Then Yonha makes her move. If he doesn't have any specific plans, he should join Essence of the Strait with her. She explains that even though they're constantly ranked second behind Creator's Sacred Grace, once she becomes captain, she plans to make Essence of the Strait the best guild in the country. She promises to support him with top-tier weapons and named artifacts, and asks, isn't that an attractive offer? Hajin calmly replies that recruiting cadets before graduation is illegal. It comes with a 500 million won fine. Yonha dismisses it instantly, saying that amount is nothing to her, just as she tells him to think about it carefully. The car suddenly stops. Her face smashes into the seat, making her lose 1,000 aura instantly. Annoyed, she demands to know what that was for. Soo-hyuk calmly replies, they've arrived at the monster point. Yonha is surprised, asking how a normal agent would even know about a location like this. Soo-hyuk explains that April is when monsters in the field become more aggressive. Smaller monsters tend to gather in areas like this. There are other similar spots, but those are too well known and crowded. This one, however, was specifically chosen with Hajin's sniping style in mind. He personally scouted the area and gathered all the information himself, so it's reliable. Hearing all that, Yonha is genuinely surprised. Hajin comments on how capable his agent is, then Hajin steps out of the car, telling Soo-hyuk he'll be back after hunting. Soo-hyuk turns to Yonha and asks what she plans to do. She calmly replies that her guild members will arrive soon. Soo-hyuk stiffens, slightly intimidated. Then suddenly, Yonha taps on his window and asks him to give her his business card. Fast forward to 10 days after the midterm incident. The suspended classes resume and the cadets return to Cube. We see the students checking their ranks. And naturally, Hajin has taken first place in the midterms. After punishing Kim Horek during the practical test, the group that used to bully him has gone quiet as well. And this is probably the most peaceful time he has had since joining Cube. Suddenly, someone punches the wall right beside him. It's Nayeon. She's clearly furious, and she immediately asks Hajin if he was the one who wrote that report. The students around them start wondering what's going on, and upon seeing the two of them together, they assume that they're fighting again. Nayeon tells him not to think he can weasel his way out of this. The annoying tone in that report obviously belongs to him. Hajin asks what's wrong with it. He wrote it to help her, but that only makes her angrier. She snaps back, saying she never asked for his help and that he even said she had no talent as an archer. Who gave him the right to teach her anything at all? And just because he's a little good at studies, so what? Then she proposes a bet. She tells him to experience just how difficult it is to use a bow with your entire body. Hajin immediately accepts. That surprises her. But if she loses, she has to quit using a bow. That only fuels her anger even more. Hajin adds that he'll use a bow instead of a gun, and in return she has to give him some special training time. She scoffs, asking if he really thinks that will help him. He can do whatever he wants. Hajin thinks to himself, his current master sharpshooter talent is at grade 7. If he can raise it to grade 6 with the remaining time, then winning this bet should be easy. Nayeon is running away from reality. Just because she has talent with a sword doesn't mean she's talented with a bow, and simply comforting her with nice words won't help. She needs to become stronger. Now we move to Grace Hall number 303. The travel club president is introducing himself. going on with a long speech. Hajin thinks that the activities of the academics club and the hunting club were halted due to the Jin incident. The events inside Cube are still progressing roughly in the same direction as in the novel. And then the travel club president announces their next destination, France. The next episode, the assassination of the Parisian multimillionaire. This episode begins with an assassin organization sending out a warning. The target, a multimillionaire from France, Bethel. On the surface, he appears to be a peaceful man, living a modest life in a mansion on the outskirts of Paris. But that's all a lie. In reality, Bethel is a wicked fraud known as Burbot. He swindled countless people and built his wealth through all kinds of crimes. He has managed to avoid capture so far, but the organization known as Footstep of Darkness has now set its sights on him. Since he is a wanted man, he can't go to the police, and he doesn't have enough time to hire strong enough protection either. Fear starts creeping in. But even in this situation, he believes there's still a way out. Then one day, he comes up with a brilliant idea. He sees a Cube cadet visiting Paris for sightseeing. The travel club president is speaking with someone, mentioning that he wants to choose Paris as their next destination. But finding accommodation for all cadets is difficult. Bethel steps forward with an offer to let all the cadets stay at his mansion. Of course, that's part of his plan. He intends to use them as bodyguards by gathering them all in one place. At the same time, Hajin receives a request on his laptop through the truth broker. He's surprised it's his first request. The client asks him to find a swindler who ruined his family and requests detailed information about the person below. Seeing the name, Hajin immediately recognizes him. Now we cut to an abandoned warehouse. The members of the chameleon troupe have gathered. One of them comments that it was terrifying, wondering if that was truly the power of anti-magic. Another adds that the standard of Cube's first years this time is quite high. Someone else says he could be useful. One of the girls casually says she's fine with anything. Then she raises her hand and asks the captain, since when did they start analyzing people just to recruit a newbie? Another member responds that Hajin has potential and, more importantly, he has no parents or lovers. The girl questions what that has to do with anything. He explains if someone has no attachments, it's easier for them to indulge in material desires. They may not be able to offer honor, but they can give him as much money as he wants. And above all, their priority is to find and punish the traitor. If Hajin has the talent to help them, then they should recruit him. The girl nods slightly, saying that if that's the case, then they should. But there's a problem. There's only one empty position left. Black. The position recognized as the strongest within the chameleon troupe, the color once held by the man who betrayed their former captain. Chiok Yoonjeong steps forward, saying that if that's the case, he'll take the black position himself and give his current color to Hajin. But the others immediately object. They say Yoonjeong is too stupid for that role. That only irritates him. Drew steps in and says that they should leave it to a majority vote decided by the captain. The captain agrees. She asks everyone who supports recruiting Kim Hajin into the chameleon troupe to raise their hands. Most of them do. Drew counts 8 in favor, only 2 against, which means Hajin's recruitment is confirmed. Chiok Yoonjeong is clearly annoyed. Then the captain turns to Jane and tells her to look at something. It's an invitation to a VIP party in Paris. She immediately realizes this is their next mission location. She tells the captain to leave it to her. Chameleon Troupe's Yahello stealing a single ring is nothing for her. We switch scenes to Suho and Naeun, who both look sleepy and tired. The president, Oh Han-hyun, confirms everyone's attendance and tells them to draw lots before moving to the portal. Hajin thinks to himself, he hasn't even been to Europe in real life, and yet in just 10 seconds he's about to be there through a portal. According to the novel, Yeonha and Kim Suho were supposed to team up, and the rest would pair accordingly. Then we finally arrive in Paris. The Eiffel Tower comes into view as the travel club steps out. And as fate would have it, Hajin and Naeun end up paired together. Naeun is clearly annoyed, wondering what kind of terrible luck she has. Hajin asks why she's complaining when she was the one who drew the lot. And just like that, they start arguing again. People around them watch in awe, commenting on how cool they look, recognizing them as Cube cadets. Suddenly, someone calls everyone over. It is Oh Han-hyun acting all lovey-dovey with a girl as they greet each other warmly. The others immediately get irritated, thinking he only came here to meet his girlfriend. Han-hyun introduces her. She's his girlfriend and also their doctor for the trip. Her name is Natasha. Hajin quietly observes her as she greets everyone and tells them to enjoy their time. They're instructed to gather back at 7 p.m. for a party later in the evening. As Hajin starts walking away, Naeun calls out to him, asking where he's going. He replies that he's going to grab something to eat and asks if she's coming. She immediately reminds him that they're a team, so she has no choice but to follow him. Hajin casually remarks that she's acting very differently from someone he knows. Then he tells her to follow him for now. She asks if he even knows where he's going. He replies that he already checked on his watch after doing some research before coming here, so she should just follow. As they walk, Naeun mentions that she's very picky with food. Hajin replies that he knows. That confuses her. How would he know that? Soon they arrive at a fancy restaurant. Naeun is surprised. She asks how he managed to get a reservation at a place like this. Hajin casually says he has his ways, though in reality he used the Book of Truth. He hands her the menu and tells her to order whatever she wants. She agrees. Hajin thinks that since she comes from a wealthy family, she should know exactly what to order. Then suddenly, while looking out the window, Hajin notices something. He immediately stands up. Hajin rushes outside, telling her to wait. She calls out, asking where he's going, but he's already gone. Hajin wonders, did the story change again, or did another unknown variable appear? Outside, he spots a couple walking. He calls out to them. It's Yoon Seunga. Hajin is surprised, wondering what she's doing in Paris. Seunga, seeing him, becomes nervous. Hajin tells her she walks fast, calling her Miss Seunga, and asks what she's doing here. But instead, she pretends not to know him. She asks who he is. Hajin is confused, asking why she's acting like this. She doesn't respond, then the man beside her steps forward. Hajin notices the system alert above them. Realizing something, he quickly apologizes, saying he must have mistaken them for someone else. He steps aside and pulls out his laptop. Standing outside, he reads the story change notification. Jane and Yoon Seunga. Now it makes sense why she's here. Both of them were part of Holy Grace of God. As members of the same batch, they went through missions together and shared many experiences. For Seunga, who lived a difficult life, Jane was the only person she could truly call a friend. But at the most critical moment, Jane betrayed her. We now see a flashback, flames everywhere. Seunga lies on the ground, asking Jane why she betrayed her. Something drips down Jane's face. As she answers because it seemed fun, her true identity, Jane Valérine. The Yahello of the Chameleon Troupe, a villain skilled in theft in disguise. Back to the present, Seunga stands lost in thought. As the man beside her hands her a cup of coffee, he tells her she looks troubled. She asks if that's really how she looks. But in truth, she feels relieved, because now she can finally end this twisted relationship. The man asks if Jane will really show up based on the anonymous tip they received. Seunga replies that she doesn't fully trust the information, but that woman loves events like this, especially ones where there's something valuable to steal. The target, Homer's ring, a relic stored inside the ballroom safe. Tonight, Jane Valérine will appear and attempt to steal it. We see Nayeon and Hajin coming out of the restaurant after finishing up, with Nayeon being satisfied by how good the meal was. Hajin asks her if they can split up now, since she might have places she wants to visit as well. And he thinks that the ball starts at 5 p.m., and if he wants to find a place that has a good view of the buildings and sides, he would need to explore in advance. Nayeon leaves while telling him to do whatever he wants. But suddenly he calls out to her and tells her not to get lost, which immediately pisses her off, and she snaps back, asking if he thinks she's an idiot. Now at night at the ball, a luxurious setting filled with many rich people. People start noticing two figures. It's Yoo Yeonha and Kim Suho. They wonder if they are celebrities, commenting on how cool they look even with masks on. Hearing that, Yeonha remarks that attire really makes all the difference, and that the effort she spent dressing Suho was worth it. While Suho, on the other hand, is just thinking about how stuffy the shirt feels. Meanwhile, from outside on top of a building, someone is watching the ball. It's Hajin. He notes 5 minutes and 30 seconds. Yeonha is here too, and so far there are no major deviations. In an old castle on the outskirts of Paris, a masked ball is taking place. The only thing he needs to do here is help the story progress smoothly without any hiccups. But then he notices something. A magic portal. His expression hardens. Something is going wrong again. The only ones capable of artificially creating portals like that are Jinn, and not just any Jinn, a strong one, favored by a demon with enough mana to open a portal. Which means that Jinn is already somewhere inside the party. Suddenly his laptop displays a point of criticism. It shows that too few people were involved in the Homer's Ring event. Because of that, the Jinn group Evil Society has interfered. Altering the story, Evil Society, an infamous Jinn organization led by someone presumed to be Kim Haksho. Relic thefts, terrorist attacks, wars across multiple nations, countless chaotic events around the world are tied to them. Hajin immediately understands. This situation has just attracted something far more dangerous. Without hesitation, he activates Ether, reshaping it over his face into a mask. This time, things won't go according to their plan. With that, he begins searching for Jane within the party. Inside the venue, we see someone silently choking out one of the staff members. Then, as if nothing happened, he walks up to an iris scanner. Using the victim's identity, he unlocks it. The door opens. He casually remarks, "Too easy." Inside the room at the center lies the target, a mythic-grade relic, Homer's Ring. Just as he is about to take it, a voice stops him. It's Seunga. She asks what he's doing there. And it turns out it's Yoren, the man who was with her earlier. She questions him, asking what he's doing here. Yoren replies that he came to find him, but actually she says she came to find him. How could her secretary just leave his post like that? She steps closer, then suddenly she hugs him from behind. Yoren is startled and confused, asking what she's doing. She calmly replies that she won't be tricked a second time. Then she turns into Brock Lesnar for a second and lifts him up, and slams him down. A massive crash echoes through the hall. The party is thrown into chaos as people start wondering what that explosion was. Smoke fills the area, and as it clears, we see the truth. It wasn't Yoren. It was Jane. Seunga immediately chases after her. Jane looks surprised, asking how Seunga saw through her disguise. It should have been perfect with her abilities. Seunga catches up and answers. She knew Jane switched places with Yoren the moment they arrived in Paris. Did she really think she wouldn't notice how her closest aide speaks and walks? Jane smirks. She says she doesn't remember Seunga being this meticulous before. Maybe being betrayed by her really left a mark. Then suddenly a whip lashes out. It strikes Seunga, binding her hand. It was Yeonha and Suho. Yona declares that she doesn't know who she is, but whatever this is, they should take their lovers' quarrel somewhere else. Seunga asks them who they are, and Yonha replies that they are cadets from Cube, and if she puts down her weapon right now, there will be no bloodshed. But Seunga immediately uses her power and burns away Yonha's whip. Suddenly, as she is distracted, Jane attacks her, but Seunga manages to dodge. Their clash continues, and the force of their attack starts reaching toward Yonha as well. Seunga is barely able to block them. But then she uses her fist to strike Jane's sword, and it shatters. Jane is clearly shocked, right as Seunga is about to finish her off. Suho steps in and blocks her attack. Seunga glares at him and demands to know who he is, telling him to get lost before she cuts him down too. But Suho calmly refuses. Even though he doesn't know why they're fighting, he won't let innocent people get dragged into it. It would be best for them to stop right now. That only irritates Seunga further. She kicks him straight in the gut. Then, as she turns back, Jane is gone. Jane escaping while Seunga shouts at her to stop. But Jane only mocks her as she flees. Then suddenly, a black miasma rises. Both Jane and Seunga freeze, shocked, wondering what it is. From within it, a djinn appears, with tentacle-like abilities holding Homer's ring. From outside, Hajin notices her. Switching to Neon, she's frustrated. She's completely lost. She's sure she followed the map correctly, so why does she keep ending up in the same place? She angrily calls her watch useless, complaining about what kind of lousy company made it, even though it's actually her own father's company. She checks again. No response. Even Hajin hasn't answered her calls or read her messages either. She wonders what the hell is going on. Back to the scene. Seunga is shocked to see a djinn. She immediately warns her to put the ring down. The djinn calmly replies that such an item isn't meant for people like them, which is why evil society will be taking it. From outside, Hajin analyzes the situation. Now that evil society has the ring, the chances of getting it back, even if they all work together, are extremely low. So, with no other option, he switches to plan B. He activates Etha, carefully calculating the amount. He decides that this should be enough, and throws it. In an instant, the ring is stolen right out of the djinn's hand. She freezes, shocked, wondering who just did that. At the same time, Seunga attacks from behind. Meanwhile, Hajin now has Homer's ring in his possession. He immediately decides to retreat with it for now. But then, he senses something. An attack comes flying toward him. He barely dodges, the impact leaves a massive crater. And from within the dust, someone steps forward, telling him he can't do that, and asking where exactly does he think he's running off to with it. Hajin's expression tightens. There's another one, a second demonic human right here. The guy greets Hajin and introduces himself as Sidious, asking if it would be easier for Hajin to understand if he simply said that he is a part of the evil society. He then praises Hajin for the technique he used to steal the ring, saying that even he could not react to it. To which Hajin replies that it was nothing special. But since Sidious is full of tricks himself, he should understand what he's about to say next, so he tells Hajin to hand over the ring. Hajin refuses. He says he can't do that. That clearly annoys Sidious. He lets out a sigh and says that there's always someone like this, someone who interferes with their perfect plan. With that, he pulls out his weapon, saying that he has no choice but to use force. He swings his sword and a massive wave of red energy bursts out from it. The attack crashes down with immense force, but Hajin manages to dodge it. Sidious asks if Hajin got scared. He explains that the weapon he's using is a magic sword worth at least several hundred million. As long as the user can supply enough mana, it can rival even low-ranking relics, so it would be better for Hajin to hand over the ring before he ends up in pieces. Hajin thinks to himself, one of the benefits Jin gain from their contracts is an exponential increase in mana, which makes that sword perfect for someone like him. So Hajin starts thinking about how to deal with the sword first. Sidious attacks again, and Hajin dodges again. Then Hajin suddenly proposes something. He suggests they talk, saying that he'll hand over the ring if they just talk first. Sidious scoffs and asks, why would he bother talking when he can just kill him and take it? But Hajin counters, wasn't he the one trying to negotiate earlier? Sidious gets irritated, calling him noisy, even if Hajin is trying to buy time. There's no way he can win. Just by looking at him, it's obvious. Hajin is far weaker than the people fighting inside. His only weapon is a gun. His physical abilities are just barely enough to dodge attacks. So how can he stand confidently in front of a djinn? Sidious gets fed up. He charges up his sword and says goodbye, but suddenly his sword stops working completely. He looks at it in confusion, wondering what just happened. Hajin calmly tells him that his sword probably won't work today. Sidious is confused. Hajin continues, saying that it's because he's a lucky person. Sidious clicks his tongue, calling it nonsense. Equipment can malfunction sometimes, but even without a weapon, he's confident he can still kill Hajin. Hajin asks, is that really true? Then Hajin uses the rest of his stigma, converting it into light attribute mana. Sidious charges at him, but at the last moment, Hajin transforms his weapon into shotgun mode and fires at point-blank range. Now we switch to Neon. She has completely given up on finding the party after getting lost. She notices several police cars rushing somewhere and wonders what's going on. She checks her smartwatch, but no one from the party has contacted her either. Seeing that, she feels a bit disappointed. She wonders why. Maybe she's been influenced in a strange way. Then suddenly, she notices someone sitting beside her. It's Hajin. She's surprised and asks what he's doing here. Hajin replies that he's a little tired. She's confused and asks him to repeat that. But before he can, Hajin suddenly collapses onto the bench. Nayeon panics. She calls out to him asking if he's sick. But he doesn't respond. He's completely unconscious. Suddenly, the scene shifts. Hajin finds himself somewhere else. He looks around, confused, then realizes this is from the time he finished his CSAT. Someone calls his name. He turns and sees his parents. He asks why they came all the way here, especially when it's so cold. Then he starts crying, saying that he messed up his exam. His parents hug him, telling him it's okay. Slowly, Hajin begins to wake up, tears still in his eyes. He finds himself lying on a bed, wondering where he is. Nayeon and Suho enter the room, with Nayeon asking if he is already awake. And Hajin is surprised to see them as well. Nayeon complains about how hard it was for her to carry him back here and tells him to get a grip. As she looks at his face, she suddenly notices something and asks if he cried. Hajin immediately tries to deny it. Suho then tells Nayeon to step outside for now, and she reacts, asking what she even did. Natasha steps in and asks Hajin if he feels better now, and he replies that he does. She tells him that he had symptoms of exhaustion and advises him not to move around too much and to get proper rest. Hajin agrees but asks where they are. Natasha explains that they are in a mansion, and this is the room assigned to him and Kim Suho. Hajin realizes this must be the large mansion they were supposed to stay in. She then asks if he is okay without eating anything, and he replies that he'll be fine. Hajin notes to himself that the assassination incident is about to begin soon, and it's fortunate that he woke up before it starts. Natasha tells him to rest properly and asks Nayeon to leave the room with her. Nayeon hesitates and complains about why everyone keeps telling her to leave. Meanwhile, Suho cuts an apple for Hajin and asks if he is really okay. Hajin replies that he's fine. He then checks his smartwatch and looks at the news regarding the Jin incident. Fortunately, there were no serious injuries or deaths reported. Since nothing else is mentioned, Jane must have escaped safely. Hajin asks Suho about what happened. Suho replies that he can't go into detail, but the Jin escaped before the heroes arrived. Hajin feels relieved hearing that. Then he notices Suho's hands, wrapped in bandages. Seeing that, Hajin tells him to take care of himself. He calls him the protagonist and says that he shouldn't be getting seriously injured. He remembers how Suho ran straight towards Seunga earlier. At that moment, Seunga truly intended to kill him. And if the Jin had appeared even a little later, he could have been severely injured. Hajin understands why Suho acted like that, because he walks the path of righteousness. But then he wonders, a protagonist who always tries to do good, can someone like that overcome a crisis controlled by an unknown force? And more importantly, can he send him back to his original world? Suho responds calmly. He says he's not a protagonist, that such things don't exist, and if he really were one, then Hajin would be one too. No, everyone in this world is a protagonist. Hearing that, Hajin seems to reconsider something. Then suddenly, Suho brings something up. He says he saw the report Hajin wrote for Nayeon, and comments that it was a bit harsh. Hajin denies that. He insists that she simply doesn't have natural talent for archery. Suho asks if that's why he made a bet with her to compete using bows. Hajin confirms it and says that if he wins, she has to give it up. Suho disagrees. He says it's her chosen path, and it's not anyone's place to force her to abandon it. Hajin counters, so should he just comfort her and cheer her on, even when she's clearly meant for a different path. Not everything can be solved with nice words like Suho believes. What if someone gives it their all only to be met with despair in the end? Then what? Would Suho take responsibility for that? Suho asks how Hajin can be so sure that Nayeon lacks talent in archery. And if he speaks so confidently, does that mean he's willing to take responsibility for it? Hajin responds that he has thought about this far more than Suho has, that he has observed her longer than anyone else, and that he knows far more about her than Suho does. That answer leaves Suho confused. Then a loud noise echoes from outside. Suho looks toward the source, wondering what it was. Hajin narrows his eyes. One of the skills an archer possesses is stealth, and he calls it an unnecessary skill that Nayeon has learned. Meanwhile, Nayeon entering her room, which she shares with Yonha, who is trying to sleep. Nayeon is blushing heavily. She calls Hajin crazy, wondering what the hell he was talking about. Yonha wakes up and asks if something happened. Nayeon quickly brushes it off, saying it's nothing. Yonha tells her to go to sleep if nothing's wrong, as she's exhausted. Nayeon agrees and tells her goodnight. But when she lies down, she can't stop thinking about it. She tries to calm herself, telling herself that she only overheard their conversation. She should just ignore it and act normal. But then his words replay in her head again, and she starts blushing even more. Just as she wonders what Hajin was thinking, a loud scream echoes. She immediately sits up, startled. What was that? Yonha wakes up angrily, thinking Nayeon screamed, but Nayeon denies it. Yonha frowns and wonders, then who was it? Maybe someone really did scream. Elsewhere in the mansion, a maid sits frozen and terrified. In front of her, her master lies there, covered in blood. Hearing that scream, everyone opens their doors, wondering what it was. They soon realize that it came from the floor below, and Suho immediately jumps down. Hajin and the others are left surprised, with Hajin wondering if he's a monster or something. Suho rushes to the location and hurriedly opens the door, only to be shocked by the horrific sight inside. The maid is crying and desperately asks Suho for help, saying that the lord has been murdered. Everyone gathers around, unable to understand how something like this could have happened. As Natasha examines the body, she states that unfortunately, he is already dead due to excessive bleeding from a pierced wound in his abdomen. The butler immediately claims that this must have been done by people jealous of him, questioning how anyone could commit such an evil act against someone who lived his life for others. Everyone falls silent, seemingly mourning his death. Natasha then tells everyone to wait outside and let the police and ambulance handle the situation, instructing all cadets to return to their rooms. But suddenly, Hajin turns on the lights. Natasha is startled and asks why he did that. Hajin walks toward Bethel's body, and Natasha quickly tells him not to tamper with the crime scene. She even tries to pull him away, but Hajin suddenly pulls out his gun and points it directly at her face. Everyone is shocked. Nayeon immediately asks if he has gone crazy. Hajin calmly tells Natasha that she is lying, and that Bethel is not dead. Villain Burbot is not dead. After deceiving everyone with his fake death, he plans to escape the crisis and eventually become a great schemer after joining the Jinn. Because his role as a villain has been altered, Hajin doesn't know how things will unfold in the future, so it is best to take him down now if possible. Everyone is stunned by what Hajin just revealed. Hajin knows that it's difficult to convince others, especially with how uncertain the situation has become and how it might disrupt the story's flow. But then he recalls Kim Suho's words about everyone being a protagonist, and he smiles, thinking that even without overthinking, someone like that can overcome uncertainty. He repeats that Bethel is not dead and that he is deceiving everyone by pretending. Natasha argues back, asking what he is talking about. She insists that she is a doctor and has already confirmed that he is dead. Hajin begins explaining, first the wound. It's too shallow for an attack that supposedly came from above. Second, the bleeding. The only fatal injury was to the heart, yet the blood has soaked the entire mattress and even overflowed onto the ground. And most importantly, he activates something on his smartwatch. Everyone is shocked. He reveals Bethel's true identity. Con artist Burbot, who is on the global wanted list. He looks awfully similar to Bethel, doesn't he? Natasha is left speechless. She turns to the butler and asks if he has called the police and ambulance, and he confirms that he has. Natasha then tells Hajin that in that case, they can simply wait for them instead of arguing, since professionals' opinions would be more reliable than that of a mere cadet. With that, she tries to leave, saying they will settle this once the authorities arrive. But Hajin suddenly points his gun at Bethel. Natasha panics, asking what he is doing, and the others also question him. Hajin tells her that he will shoot after counting to 3. After all, it shouldn't matter if he's already dead, right? He begins counting. Natasha starts to panic, begging someone to stop him, insisting that Bethel is already a corpse and there is no need for this. 2. Natasha continues, saying that they have already called the police, asking what more he wants and telling him to put the gun down immediately. 3. Before he can fire, Natasha screams and rushes forward, covering Bethel's body as she begs Hajin not to shoot. Revealing that he is her father, everyone is left completely shocked. At the same time, the butler quietly tries to slip away, but Hajin fires a shot beside him, stopping him in his tracks. Then Hajin tells him not to call the police but to call the heroes instead, and inform them that they have captured a wanted criminal. Fast forward and it's morning, the police taking away Natasha, along with Burbot's unconscious body. The assassination incident was actually a self-fabricated scheme created by Burbot and Natasha. Burbot, who was wanted all over Europe for his crimes, planned everything so that he could escape the police dragnet that was closing in on him. The fact that Natasha, his daughter, happened to bring a cube cadet along had actually worked in his favor. The plan was known as coming back after suspended animation. The substance required to put someone into suspended animation is extremely expensive, but Natasha, being a doctor at Cube, was able to obtain it without much difficulty. The next steps were simple. After putting Burbot into suspended animation with the help of an illegal mage, she created a fake wound on him and spilled blood all over the scene. When the ambulance workers arrived, they wouldn't be able to determine whether he was truly dead or not. On top of that, many of the police officers in Paris had already been bribed by Burbot, so during transportation, a similar-looking corpse would be swapped in his place. After that, the Cube Cadet who had been deceived would give testimony, and since the words of a Cube Cadet are considered completely trustworthy, everything would fall into place. With that, Burbot would officially be declared dead, while in reality, he would be reborn under a new identity. However, that plan has now completely failed. We see Hajin looking at his screen, noting that the first request he received on his website was also about Burbot, which would help increase his credibility as well. At that moment, Yonha approaches him from behind and asks if he's Sherlock, mentioning both the Yoon Hyun incident and what just happened today. She even suggests that at this rate, he should just open a detective agency. Hajin replies that a sharpshooter needs to have sharp observation skills. But Yonha questions him, how does he recognize the faces of criminals so easily? Hajin casually responds that it's a family matter. His tone suddenly becomes formal, which confuses Yonha, and she asks why he's speaking like that all of a sudden. Hajin, however, starts thinking about something else, Kim Chundong's family background. Then the scene shifts, someone standing in front of a massive aquarium. Sidious is kneeling before him, reporting that an unknown individual wearing a leopard mask interfered with their operation. She explains that the person had exceptional stealing abilities, to the point where even she couldn't react in time. He asks if the person was a djinn. She replies that he didn't feel like one, but he didn't seem like a hero either. He orders her to investigate both heroes and hunters, and if she finds him, she must report back without taking any action. She agrees, but then he questions her. Why is she openly showing that she's a djinn? Confused, Sidious responds, "Pardon." He points out her appearance, asking why she's practically advertising that she's a djinn, clearly irritated. She quickly apologizes and changes her face, promising that she will find him as soon as possible. Then he asks about the magic sword, the weapon she used earlier. Sidious becomes nervous when asked about it. Meanwhile, Hajin is holding that very sword. He wonders how he's supposed to use it. Since he can't normally control magic that isn't tied to his stigma, the weapon is essentially useless to him. Still, it would probably sell for a high price, but something about it feels off. Then he looks at the other item, Homer's ring. Normally, a certain amount of magic power needs to be infused into it to modify its properties. But Hajin doesn't need to do that. He simply uses SP to change a few words. The ring transforms, its status changes. It becomes a relic that increases magic power and permanently boosts intelligence. And it's not a bound item, meaning it can be given to someone else. Compared to himself, who lacks sufficient magic power, someone like Kim Suho or Ki Naeun would be able to use it far more effectively. Especially Naeun, who has a large amount of magic power. After that, Hajin checks his stats. Aside from speed and perception, nothing has increased significantly. However, his gift has improved. Even so, he feels like he has hit a wall. If he wants to break past his limits, he will need to work even harder than before. Still, at this level, he believes he can defeat Naeun. As he closes his laptop, he suddenly remembers he was supposed to look into Kim Chundong. He logs into Violet Banquet, thinking that there's no way the co-author would leave Chundong's past completely blank. Even if he was just an extra in the novel, in reality, he must have been someone exceptional to enter Cube. Which means there's a high chance his parents are not ordinary either, but finding that information won't be easy. That's when he thinks of someone, the troubleshooter Yu Jinhyuk. A man known for being the best at digging up information, but also extremely expensive. Still, Hajin decides to hire him, only to suddenly realize something. He has no money left, he invested everything, and completely forgot about it. Then he glances to the side, the evangel seed begins to twitch, and he realizes it's already time to feed it again. Now, in a large building, we see Yonha looking at something on her smartwatch, and then she makes a call to her uncle Yu Jinhyuk. Fast forward and we suddenly find ourselves in Norway, which even Hajin questions, calling it a long story. But before anything else, he gets hit right in the face with a snowball. He pauses and says that maybe the story isn't that long after all. We see that it was Naeun who threw it at him on purpose, which immediately pisses him off. The club activities that were paused after the Sven incident have finally resumed again. The hunting club has borrowed a mountain cabin on a hill and organized an event to mark the resumption of their activities. The club president calls everyone over to explain the event. She says that the seniors have hidden flags with numbers like these in various parts of the forest, and each number corresponds to a prize. There are virtual reality devices, vouchers, and many other amazing rewards waiting to be found, so everyone should do their best. She then tells them to draw lots and form their teams. As Naeun draws her lot, she ends up paired with Hajin again. Immediately, she asks if he rigged the draw. Clearly annoyed, she starts walking ahead, telling him not to slow her down. Hajin, with a deadpan expression, tells her to just watch her step because there are boar traps around. And right on cue, she gets caught in one. Naeun, irritated, then looks at Hajin's clothes and asks if he's really okay wearing something that thin, saying he's going to freeze to death. Hajin replies that it's a functional coat, and a really good one at that. It's actually something Rachel gave him as a gift when he was struggling financially and couldn't afford one himself. She said it was her way of thanking him for the midterms. Thinking about it, Hajin starts tearing up, realizing just how kind Rachel is. Then suddenly Naeun points ahead, she's found a flag. Hajin looks over and notes that it's flag number 1, but he wonders why it's placed all the way up there. Questioning what kind of idiot would climb something like that, and before he can finish, Naeun is already climbing it. She even calls out to him to hurry up. Hajin lets out a sigh, and pulls out a knife attached to a wire. Naeun looks at him and asks what he's doing, wondering if he seriously thinks that a knife tied to a wire is going to work. Hajin prepares to throw it and replies that of course it wouldn't work with just any wire, thinking to himself that the wire contains some of his stigma's mana. He throws it, it doesn't matter where it lands. He can control it. The knife flies and lands perfectly. Naeun is shocked that it actually worked. Hajin retrieves the flag, and Naeun excitedly asks what the reward is. Hajin checks and finds a note. It turns out to be Yoon Seungga's number. Naeun gets excited instantly. Hajin, however, doesn't react much. He simply hands it to her. She's surprised and tells him that this is the number of the vice captain of the number 1 guild. Hajin replies that he doesn't need it, thinking to himself that he already has it anyway. As she takes it, she starts blushing slightly, then suddenly gives it back, asking why he would give it to her when he's the one who found it. Hajin shrugs and tells her to forget it if she doesn't want it either, and just like that, they head back to the cabin. Now switching scenes, we see Yonha deep in thought. She recalls Hajin's answer when she asked him how he recognized criminals so easily. Burbot was a criminal who mainly operated in Europe. Someone like Kim Hajin shouldn't have had any connection to him, unless he had memorized the faces of global criminals. But why would he do that? There's only one explanation that makes sense. No one knows who the person was that caused something terrible in Hajin's past. Because of that, he memorized the faces of wanted criminals to find that person. And considering that Hajin is an orphan, this theory becomes even more convincing. Maybe his parents didn't just die, maybe they were murdered, and because of that he trained himself, hid his abilities, and prepared to take revenge one day without being noticed. Even so, this is just a hypothesis. It may not reflect his true past. But if it is true and if she can uncover it, then it becomes an opportunity. An opportunity to gain an advantage in recruiting him into her guild. Later she sighs, thinking that she doesn't really want to contact that person. Now we shift to a building outside. A phone is ringing non-stop. Someone walks in, annoyed, shouting why no one is picking it up and complaining about the useless secretary. He picks up the phone himself and introduces his service: objects, people, information, whatever the client wants, he will find. This is Yu Jinhyuk's office. Yonha greets him, calling him uncle. He's surprised, saying she rarely calls him. She gets straight to the point. She wants to hire him to investigate someone. The target is Kim Hajin, a 17-year-old cube cadet. She wants to know everything about his past and where he has been before. Because of her uncle's ability to trace the past, she believed that he should be able to uncover everything. Back to Hajin, everyone is surprised seeing him take first place, commenting that they are so envious of him. But Hajin thinks that the present for number 4 is actually better than number 1 for him. Fast forward and it becomes evening, and they all start eating. And Hajin tells them that he will cook the meat and the rest of the items so they can go and rest. The guy beside him starts thinking that Hajin is completely different from the rumors. And since his aunt runs a Korean barbecue restaurant, he is more confident in grilling meat than others. While they are eating, the president brings up the topic of the end-of-term exams, telling them to be extra careful and that they must not trust anyone during the exams. One of them asks if it's really that tough, and she replies that it's not just tough, as she has even seen friendships break apart because the results are directly connected to it. Everyone becomes serious. And she continues that they must have heard about the repeat class as well, warning them that those people are really dangerous, so they should be wary of them. The repeat class, as the name suggests, is for cadets whose grades were not good enough to advance to the next level. There are around 200 cadets in each grade, and among them, around 20% have either contracted with a demon or belong to high-risk groups, and the real problem of the end-of-term exam comes from them. Now that the co-author has gotten involved, it's possible for that percentage to increase, which only proves how rotten the current cube has become. The president then calls out to Hajin, praising him for doing a great job and telling him to take a break and eat with them. But Hajin replies that he has already been eating while cooking, so he's fine. Hajin thinks that they are being really friendly to him just because he is grilling the meat well. The president then suggests that since they all had a great dinner, it would be better to rest in the mountain cabin instead of going out for a night hunt. At night, we see them all playing around and having fun, while under a beautiful night sky, Hajin sits outside thinking that it has been a while since he laughed like this. Suddenly, he gets another request on his website to find a con artist, and seeing the name, he notes that it sounds quite German. So it must be a referral from the previous client. He uses his book of truth and retrieves all the information about the con artist. But the process makes him feel dizzy, and he thinks that although earning money like this is great, he really doesn't like how he feels after using this ability. He closes his laptop and starts admiring the view. And then suddenly he mimics a smoking motion before realizing that he already quit smoking. He remembers that he used to smoke at least half a pack every single day for 5 years, and he had completely forgotten about it after coming to this world. Suddenly, Naeun approaches him from behind and asks if he used to smoke. He asks since when she had been there, to which she replies that she has been standing there for a while. After hearing that he used to smoke, she calls him a real thug and asks if he has tattoos as well. And when he doesn't answer, she assumes that it's true, but he clarifies that it isn't. She then stares at him for a moment and asks if he is confident in winning against her. And Hajin responds by asking if she is confident in giving up the bow if she loses. She replies that losing doesn't even sound possible, so she didn't think about what would happen afterward. Then he asks if she's going to cry if she loses, like she almost did earlier, which immediately pisses her off. She then shows him a news article written about him in France, saying that Yonha showed it to her. And apparently, he's being called the Korean Sherlock who caught the notorious con artist. Naeun says she can't believe that someone like him, who is always arguing with her and used to smoke, is being called Sherlock, and Hajin gets tired of her teasing and tells her to go to sleep, while she continues making fun of him as she leaves. But then she stops again, and asks him what it feels like to smoke. Now in winter at an old orphanage, we see Yu Jinhyuk waiting, almost reaching his limits as his mana is about to be depleted. But just then he notices someone, a young girl holding a baby. She places the baby down in front of the orphanage, and Jinhyuk realizes that she is just a child herself. Suddenly, everything starts to distort, and he notices that the density of the past is too high, forcing him back to the present where he wonders just who the hell that girl is. We go back to the past, where a group of kids are trying to catch a glimpse of the hero's disciple, Ki Naeun, who is known as a child genius. Kids outside are wondering what's going on. And inside, her master asks her if she is really serious about changing her weapon to a bow. He questions if it's because of her mother, but she replies that there is no particular reason, saying she simply wanted to change it, and that a genius like her would probably become the best archer even if she switched paths. He responds that he even gave her a magic sword, and although she apologizes, he suddenly gets angry, shouting and asking who exactly her master is, saying that he does not have any disciple who changes their path in life so easily. After calming himself down, he tells her that he won't stop her if that's truly her decision, but asks if this is really what she wants, warning her to think carefully and not make a choice she would regret. Back to the present, Nayeon once again shoots down her target, and when it's Hajin's turn, he also hits his target with ease. Seeing this, the other students start commenting that Hajin is far better than they expected, and the distance has already reached 400 meters. Someone appears behind them and points out that Hajin is not just keeping up. He has been firing immediately after Nayeon hits her targets for quite a while now. It would be understandable if it happened once or twice, but in a situation like this with constant pressure, it's natural for someone to feel psychologically intimidated. Yet Hajin looks completely relaxed, even in the middle of this psychological battle. Because of that, he begins to wonder with genuine surprise if Hajin might actually win. Hearing this, Shin gets angry and looks toward Nayeon with concern. As she fires her next shot, she misses the bullseye, and Hajin once again tells her that she is not suited for bows. She snaps back, asking if he's scared and telling him to stop with the cheap provocation and just shoot. Hajin knows that Nayeon does not have a calm personality. She gets shaken and emotional at even the slightest provocation. It's only natural that she is not suited to be an archer. But even so, she chose this path. And so he pushes further, telling her that she is scared, that she's afraid to fight using a sword. That immediately angers her, and she tells him to watch his mouth. But Hajin continues, saying that if that's not the case, then why does it look that way to him? Why does she keep trying to rationalize it by saying things like she's just as talented with a bow as she is with a sword, or that she can become the best hero with a bow? He admits that considering she switched halfway, she is doing quite well as an archer, but even hearing that only agitates her more, and she tells him to shut up. Then with his next words, he completely shakes her, telling her that at her current level, she wouldn't even be able to kill a single Jin, let alone avenge her family. At that moment, she releases her arrow, and this time, it completely misses the target. Everyone is shocked, including Nayeon herself, and just like that, she loses the duel to Hajin. Later that evening, Yonha is walking outside looking for Nayeon, and eventually finds her, sitting alone on a bench. She asks what she's doing there, saying that everyone has been looking for her. Nayeon asks if she has already heard what happened, saying that Hajin brought up her family, and she starts tearing up. She wondered why he would do something like that to Yonha, even though he had helped her before, and she didn't think he was a bad person like the rumors said. She still can't understand why he keeps doing things like this. Yonha also begins to wonder what Hajin would gain from acting this way, but then suddenly realizes something. If their relationship worsens, it would become a problem for her, since she intends to recruit both of them. Because of that, even though she feels slightly annoyed, she decides to step in. She tells Nayeon that Hajin has no family either, and that it might be for a similar reason. She adds that she had already guessed it, and perhaps Hajin sees himself in her. Maybe he wants her to understand him, even if it means acting harshly, and ultimately he wants her to live a better life. After saying that, Yonha leaves, telling Nayeon that she probably has a lot to think about, and not to stay out too late. Left alone, Nayeon begins recalling her past, when she was once asked why she switched to a bow, and she casually replied that she had simply gotten bored of swords. Back then, her brother patted her head and told her that no matter what path she chose, he would support her, because he believed she would succeed. However, he also made her promise that when the time came, she would think seriously about what she truly wanted to do. Now, as those memories resurface, she begins to reflect. Switching to Hajin, we see that his SB has increased significantly, and something unexpected has triggered extreme luck in human relationships. Seeing that, Hajin can't help but wonder, what exactly is going on? Fast forward, and we see Yoo Jin-hyuk telling Yonha that there is definitely something unusual about Kim Hajin, and that he would be able to find out more after further investigation, though he keeps to himself that it would be better not to mention the chameleon troupe to her. He then asks if it is okay for him to continue looking into Hajin, and Yonha smiles, replying that of course it is, as she has already made up her mind that she will definitely bring him over to Essence of the Strait. Hearing that, Jin-hyuk starts to smile as well, saying that it looks like he will have to put in more effort, and Yonha immediately questions if he is misunderstanding something. We then switch scenes to Hajin, who arrives at the training center. Apparently, the rumors about the shooting competition have spread quickly since many people witnessed it, though he did not expect to be personally called in by an instructor. Because of how things turned out, he feels a bit nervous as he heads toward the classroom. Suddenly, he notices someone else there and quietly peeks around the corner, only to be surprised when he sees that it is Nayeon practicing with a sword. As she turns around and spots Hajin, she quickly hides the sword behind her back in embarrassment. Hajin awkwardly points out that she is training, and Nayeon, still flustered, hesitantly admits that she is. Asking if there is something wrong with that, Hajin replies that it is not like that, and then suddenly notices her new hairstyle, commenting on it. Nayeon asks what about it, and Hajin jokingly asks if she cut it because of him, but she immediately denies it, saying she cut it because it was getting warm, and asks if he really thinks she would dwell on something like that. Hajin smiles and compliments her new hair, saying that it suits her and asking if it feels refreshing, and she blushes slightly before replying that it probably does. Hajin then leaves, saying that he's going to train over there as well. As he walks away, Nayeon begins to think. Hajin was originally a swordsman, yet he threw away everything he had learned throughout his life, and chose a completely different weapon. It makes her wonder what kind of feelings he had when he made that decision. She then begins channeling mana into her sword, and as the energy extends all the way to the ceiling, she becomes excited. At the same time, she recalls his words about her continuing to use the bow, and starts wondering if he had known from the very beginning. Fast forward back in his dorm, we see Hajin preparing for the upcoming final exams. He's shopping for supplies and notes that they will probably inspect their belongings before entering the exam location, but that is mainly to catch handmade weapons or illegal equipment. As long as he claims that everything is for emergencies, it should be fine. But suddenly he hears something. The sound is coming from Evangel's seed, which is crying out for food. As Hajin feeds it, he notices that it has grown significantly and wonders if it is about to be born. A newborn Evangel would look around 3 to 4 years old, and if he uses the witch's power, he should be able to give her a different appearance and raise her without suspicion. He gently plays with the seed, telling it to come out soon. Now switching to ST Hotel on the outskirts of Seoul, we see Jane asking her captain if she is really planning to disguise herself as a cadet and personally infiltrate the finals. The captain confirms that she is, which is exactly why she needs Jane's help. Jane questions whether she really needs to go that far, saying that she has become obsessed with something strange again. But the captain replies that there is someone whose abilities she wants to see with her own eyes, and there is also something she wants to obtain from the exam location. Jane sighs and agrees, saying that it is not like anyone could stop her anyway. As she activates her ability to disguise the captain, she begins explaining the details of the cadet identity. How she speaks, her personality, and her habits are all written down, so she needs to memorize everything. Jane admits that she feels uneasy about this, but the captain dismisses it, saying that she worries too much and that this is not even a big deal. Fast forward and we see the captain now fully disguised as a cadet, surrounded by a group of clingy friends. She notes that these must be the friends mentioned in the notes, and casually remarks that this is all incredibly easy. Imitating a cadet is nothing more than a piece of cake. She begins acting naturally, putting on a cute demeanor and even joking about not having a boyfriend, and right at that moment Hajin arrives. The moment their eyes meet, both of them freeze in shock. Hajin immediately gets nervous and quickly turns away, thinking to himself what the heck just happened, and why on earth is the captain here, disguised as an ordinary cadet.